We're working. Everything's working. Excellent. All right. Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub, and your facilitator tonight on the Captain's Table. Tonight I'm joined by two wonderful content creators who you love, and we'll be introducing them. But before we do, I'm trying to do this more often. If you've been enjoying this sorts of content, and if you do find this content enjoyable, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe for more content, and hit the bell icon to know when these are coming out. And of course, join us live on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, for your own chance to hang out with the casts and ask questions, which we'll do after the fact. This is just the discussion podcast section, and the actual kind of full question and answer session will be a separate YouTube video on it, or it won't be a separate YouTube video, but it'll be on part of the longer VOD, which this whole thing was live on. So make sure you join us there as well. With that being said, let's get started with our first guest, Nick. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Hey, it's Nick. I make some YouTube videos, TikToks, and you can catch me live on Twitch TV/Hey, it's Nick, and also now starting to stream on Kick.com as well. Controversial, I know, but
controversial.
Branching out, but I think right now it's a good time to be branching out with what Twitch has been doing. So I've been treading those waters, and yeah, you can catch me out there.
Awesome. And AC Vertigo, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
I'm HC Vertigo. I'm a full-time Star Citizen streamer. Well, mostly Star Citizen streamer these days, but I stream other stuff. Mostly on Twitch. I do YouTube videos occasionally. You can find me around at Twitch TV, HC Vertigo. You can find me at YouTube, HC Vertigo. You can find me on Twitter, HC Vertigo. I'm all over the place, HC Vertigo.
All over the place, Vertigo. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Sultan of the Sultan King of Stanton.
Sultan King of Salt.
Of Stanton. The Stanton Sultan King of Salt. There we go. That's how it works. Gotta get that shirt somewhere. The HC Vertigo merch. The Sultan of Salt of Stanton. Stanton Sultan of Salt.
Sultan Salt.
Yeah. All right. With that out of the way, let's bring the topic for today. It's going to be obvious if you're watching this on after the fact, especially in the titles and everything, but we're going to talk about Arena Commander. Now, I'm going to have to do a brief overview because, and I say brief, this may be a little bit, because there is a huge amount of stuff that's coming out with Star Citizen with Arena Commander. There's a massive update they're doing for 320. And I'm going to go over just real quick the what's on the release view, so we know the general idea, and also a little bit more about what they talked about. They did in 2 entire ISCs, effectively like a 20 or 30 minute ISC on just the changes to Arena Commander that they did over 2 separate ISCs from this week and last week. So I highly suggest to check those out if you haven't, and then come back and watch this later if you need to. But we have where are you? They're completely revamping Arena Commander so that when you log in, Arena Commander and Star Marine are now just Arena Commander. The entire front end is completely replaced with a new front end. All of the racetracks that are on the Verse, so all of the ones that are in Stanton, are now also available in Arena Commander. There's an overhaul of all of the New Horizon speedways, including a brand new map, an additional New Horizon Speedway map. There is a new dogfighting map, which is Jericho Station. There's another dogfighting map, which is Security Post Korea. They've overhauled the Echo 11 Star Marine map to entirely. They have experimental game modes. They have an entire Aeros, like a dogfighting map that's in atmosphere, which just uses the New Horizon Speedway map, and it reuses it as a dogfighting map. Security Post Korea is also going to be in an FPS. And part of those experimental game modes, we've seen pistols only, we've seen effectively the gun game, and we've seen what they call Tank Royale, which is, just a bunch of tanks fighting each other in elimination or in squadron battles. So this is huge overhaul. That doesn't include things like the mute buttons being added and other kind of UI aspects. They've kind of ported the friends list over from the actual PU into Arena Commander, so you can use all of those features as well. It's this huge overhaul of the game. I didn't even mention the Pirate Swarm. They've completely overhauled Pirate Swarm and its ending, plus an endless Vandal Swarm. So there's a huge amount of changes that are coming in 320. All of this is going to be coming in 320, plus more in the future. So with that being said, I want your initial reactions to this overload, this avalanche of information and changes. Vertigo, I'll start with you since you were the last person to introduce yourself. What's your initial impressions with this?
I'm having a snack, so I had to mute myself.
he had some stomach pains earlier, so he's feeding his stomach. That's
I'm feeding my stomach, yeah, trying to stew things over. I mean, like, I'm excited for like some of the Arena Commander stuff coming up, like new maps, obviously, like really easy to add. Some of the stuff I don't really care for that much, like the Star Marine stuff. Like honestly, there's plenty of other games that do like first-person shooter stuff better. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm concerned, Star Marine should just be taken off the menu until CIG has something with Star Marine to make it actually better than another product on the market.
Well, I mean, effectively, this is like there's no more Star Marine. Everything is now Arena Commander now. So,
I mean, that's just splitting hairs, Paul.
But you're talking about removing the FPS aspect of Arena Commander.
Yeah, I'm talking about just removing Star Marine to being able to. You can't play Star Marine anymore. That's what I'm basically saying because there's nothing really going on in Star Marine that's worth the damn compared to any other product on the market. It's just basically a crappier Call of Duty knockoff. Okay. I used to play Star Marine a lot, but honestly, like almost no one plays Star Marine these days. But Arena Commander and racing, those actually have like merit because who's doing a ship racing game? Who's doing Starfighter dogfighting game anymore these days? So, but even then, Arena Commander, almost nobody plays Arena Commander. And one of the big problems with nobody playing Arena Commander is that CIG was not developing anything for it. There was like a space around 3.0 to like 3.5 where the community had just pretty much given up. And that's one of the reasons why there's almost nobody in there any time. Because even the racing scene was hideous. There was like bugs with like the leaderboards and racing where you could actually start the race before your timer started. So you basically have like an extra lap, just a free lap that didn't count towards your final time. And if you didn't get that bug, like you'd have like a whole lap that count against you. And I remember talking to some of the racing community, and they were just like kind of really pissed off by this because leaderboards was a huge deal in the racing community. Otherwise, you had to have like a third-party leaderboard where people had to like have stopwatches and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see that CIG is actually giving love to a game mode that some people like. And if CIG does a good job here and they actually fix up some of these bugs, and CIG actually continues to develop Arena Commander and actually stay on top of these issues, then we'll probably see the player base start to come back to it. Otherwise, Arena Commander, as far as I'm concerned, is still dead to me.
Okay. So even with like all these changes in these updates, you're still like, no, I'm not interested. You're not impressed with it.
I'm interested in seeing what the changes are, and I'm seeing if they fix it. But if CIG doesn't put doesn't have like long-term plans to actually support Arena Commander, like it's going to be a dead game mode like it is right now.
Okay. Nick, your same thoughts. Your initial impressions from all this information.
My initial impressions were I was super hyped when they announced that the Tonk Royale, and they specifically called it Tonk Royale in the thing. And I'm just like, yes, finally ground vehicles in Arena Commander. We can finally just actually have a tank battle.
The first ground vehicle was added in 3.0 back in 2017, start of 2018. So about 5 years now. We've been kind of waiting for this in Arena Commander.
And it's just like, it's one of those things where it's just like, finally it's in. I'm just excited to actually even if it's only going to be the first initial like week, people go in and try it, I'm going to have fun with that week and just have crazy tank battles. And I know HC Vertigo isn't excited for the Star Marine features in it, but I'm personally excited for the Star Marine changes because they did say that they were fixing a lot of bugs and issues, and I'm interested to see how well they actually were able to address some of the issues with Star Marine. with the new UI and bug fixes and all that stuff and optimizations. I'm more excited for the experimental modes. That's the one thing that really kind of caught my curiosity with the potential, with what they can do. I'm excited that they're going to be having like, pistols and gun game come in for Star Marine to actually give it kind of like more of a gamey feel. I do agree with HG Vertigo though that they really need to work on the actual player experience in FPS. I think there's a lot of things lacking that Star Citizen does with the FPS that they could add on and improve on. But I'm hoping that with the new Arena Commander and experimental modes for balancing and player feedback, that we can actually get that to developers who are working on it currently. At least that's the way they pitched it. So I'm hoping that when we do see new experimental modes come in, we get like a spectrum feed with that, where we can actually give our feedback on the FPS experience specifically. So I'm hopeful for that, and I'm excited to see more experimental game modes come on, like a hardcore PvP, a one life search and destroy type thing. That's one thing I would really most likely like to see in experimental modes come in, is like a hardcore one life, CSGO style PvP experience in both Arena Commander and Star Marine. That's one thing I think the competitive community would really like to see, as well as myself.
Okay. I'll start with you in this next question then, Nick. Is this just straight up, do you think this is a mistake that CIG is putting a team of, 8 or 9 people on Arena Commander? We know that they've been working since like last February, not this previous February, like February 2021, on a lot of these updates and changes. Do you think this is a waste of resources, or do you think this is a valuable, like, can this add to the experience of Star Citizen?
I don't think it's a waste of resources, but I can see if it could be wasted. I think if they use this team specifically, like say the actor feature team has a new feature they want to implement into the PU, right? Or they just want to balance things out. With the experimental modes, with the way they described it, they should be able to set up like scenarios for us players to actually get in and get rapid reiterations and get reps in to test certain specific features. So I think if it's actually used to its potential, it could be good. But if it's not used to that potential, then I do feel that it could be wasted.
Okay, so it depends on how going forward the experimental modes are.
Mm-hmm. I really feel that way. Yeah.
Vertigo, do you think this is a waste of resources compared to like Star Citizen overall, or do you think this is a good use of kind of future resources?
I think it's kind of a waste of resources. I think Arena Commander, Star Marine, the resources should have gone to developing the persistent universe, but CIG seems to think there is some merit or some value in having these modes. And like from the outside looking, I gave CIG money to develop the persistent universe and Squadron 42. Mm-hmm. And if CIG wants to test things, that's great. Give us things to test. Right now, the meta is very flat in Arena Commander. It's just light fighters. There is no meta. Every weapon pretty much works like every other weapon. Or the AI doesn't work very well in Vandal Swarm or Pirate Swarm. Racing has a lot of bugs with it, issues with it. But with the next updates, we're getting more racing stuff, and hopefully it works. But I'd rather see more progress in the persistent universe. I'd rather see more progress with Squadron 42. But, the one thing I would love to see, like testing in Arena Commander, was this new master modes. Master modes. I would love to see that come to Arena Commander, so that players could actually give feedback to CIG. Let's like give it like a Gladius or something.
So you think it's a waste of resources unless they used it to test some of those features that are coming forward?
Yeah. If CIG wanted to test balance changes, like actually make Arena Commander a bespoke mode that's separate from the persistent universe, so they can kind of mess with stuff balance wise, and then put those balance changes in, because they were having problems getting people to play the 318 PTU. Mm-hmm. Like they were begging people to log in. In fact, they started bribing people after the fact with like free ships. Like you submitted the most bug reports on Spectrum, you get a 400 I don't remember if anybody saw that.
Yeah, I did.
Did anyone else see that?
They've done it before. This isn't the first time they've done that, but this is the first time it was this extensive in the past.
Yeah. So if you're going to test stuff, like give us if you want to test stuff, test on a live server. You want to test it in front of everybody, put it into Arena Commander on a live server, give us master mode. You'll get tons of feedback. You'll get more feedback than you ever wanted. I guarantee you. Okay. But of course, CIG's like, oh, we got to wait for the UI changes. Oh, we got to wait for art to get done with some stuff. And, apparently we can't just use placeholder stuff anymore in Star Marine. It's got to look pretty.
I know with game development, there's a lot of test maps created just to test features specifically, so you don't have the other features that are currently being worked on interrupting anything. Like it's all kind of cut off. And I feel like, especially with the PTU, if they use experimental modes in the PTU to do some really wild testing, it could really like spice up the PTU and as well really focus in on what exactly the devs want to test on. Because there's a lot of times where like you go into the PU, right? In a PTU, and you go into the PU and their testing instructions are kind of like, just go here, test these things. And, you kind of got to deal with the PU in the state it is on PTU. And if they at least made it in an Arena Commander, it's just like they could just set up test maps so quickly, just test this out, do it a few times. And it's like just the time commitment from players and anyone is so much lower to test things.
That's kind of like one of my problems with the PTU. Like when 318 released, that kind of broke me because 318 was like 3 months, Paul. It was over 100 days.
It was longer than that. It's probably about 3 months. Yeah, it's because it's like in March, I think is when it released, and it first released in December. So yeah, it was like 3 months.
And it was they were playtesting persistently streaming on a 318 PTU, and it was in PTU for so long. I got bored. I got tired with it because every time you'd log in, there'd be another patch that day, which would reset your account, so you lose all your progress. There was no progression, and CIG didn't give you all the ships in the game. You were locked to whatever you had in your account. And so you really couldn't grind for anything. Maybe you had enough cash to buy like some upgrades for ships you had. And if you wanted to make any progress, your best bet was to log on a weekend where CIG wasn't releasing an update, but sometimes they would release an update on the weekend, which would reset your progress. So it was very annoying that way. And sometimes the stuff they want you to test is out in the middle of nowhere, or you have to set up like a schedule with other players because we're a multiplayer game. So you have to have other players nearby to test out some of the stuff. And if CIG just had like a smaller, more contained map in Arena Commander just to kind of throw people into, like you wouldn't have to deal with all the persistent universe. And that's the one good thing about Arena Commander is that you could skip a lot of the immersive sim elements, waking up in a bed, commuting to the spaceport at Lorville,
eating and
pulling
drinking
your ship out. Yeah. Nice little shortcut there. But overall, I did not give Chris Roberts money to develop Arena Commander into anything. Like, I did not give a shit about Theaters of War when they showed it off because I did not give Chris Roberts money to make a Battlefield in space. I gave him to make Freelancer. Right? So when they showed off Theaters of War, I kind of rolled my eyes like, great, more feature creep. So I see Arena Commander as kind of like the unwanted stepchild in this marriage. Chris Roberts wants to make it a thing, but I don't want it to be a thing, so I kind of like keep it at like arm's reach. I kind of try to ignore it because I never expect anything out of it.
What would make you change your opinion on it in the general? Like, what would CIG need to do to Arena Commander to make you more positive to it? Would it just have to be the whole using it for these testing focuses, or is there anything else?
I mean, if CIG wants to make me more, if CIG wants to sweeten up Arena Commander, it needs to have a legit purpose or be something that doesn't already exist. Like I said, Star Marine specifically is already done better by other products on the market. Hell, even Battlefield 2042 or 2041. I can't remember I think it's 2042.
2042, I think, yeah.
Yeah, 2042.
Yeah. It's the current one on the market. There's Call of Duty. Call of Duty has better team deathmatch, better objective gameplay. There's already a bunch of or Counter-Strike. If you want to do like a 6v6 game, Valorant out there as well. Apex Legend if you want to have a large open map. Battlefield if you want to have actual vehicles. Hell, there's all a bunch of even people are still playing Battlefield 4 if you want to go back that far back and have like a combined arms experience.
Yeah, that's because EA hasn't made a good Battlefield since then.
That's not untrue. That's not untrue. Battlefield 1 was okay. I'll say I'll give out Battlefield 1 for its novelty for being in World War 1. But
yeah, but there's stuff out there that's already being done better than Star Marine is. So CIG, you'd have to put some development behind it. CIG would have to like show that they're committed through actual updates. Like, I'm not going to take CIG's word that they're committed to update anything anymore when it comes to Arena Commander, because CIG has said a lot of stuff over time. I am that jaded, just pickled, salty backer from 2013 that's seen everything CIG said, and I've watched priorities shift over time. And eventually you get to the point where it's just like, oh, CIG said that? Yeah, well, whenever it happens,
we'll see.
And that's kind of like, we'll see. Very, very, very sarcastic, very bitter. Like, yeah, we'll see about that.
This is the reason why I called him the Sultan of Salt. This is but it's important to keep these opinions in mind. I know a lot of people, I'm sure people on YouTube are furiously typing in the comments, and please do. If Vertigo is tricking you into commenting, then I've won. You've fallen for my trap.
You've fallen for the content
engagement trap.
But yeah, like there was literally an in-game protest over the lack of development for Arena Commander back in like 3.1.
Yeah.
And CIG poked fun at the community over that. I remember around the verse when Jared did that, they had a little in-universe jab at the people who were protesting Arena Commander not being kept up to date or developed for. And there was tons of bugs. There was pissing people off. So that didn't help me. Like, I remember that. I distinctly remember that. And Star Marine just being... We used to have a player base. We used to set up regular games with the Star Marine, and then that all fell apart after a while because there was just too many bugs. Just too many issues, and there was better products to play. Like, why play Star Marine when you just go play Counter-Strike if you were... what was it? Dirty Bomb was out at the time. And that shut down. So we were talking about that.
Yeah, I remember testing.
But CIG needs to show that they're committed to Arena Commander, that they're doing stuff with it, and then I'll sweeten up on it. If they can just turn the stuff around, like just one patch every 5 years is not enough for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think if CIG does make changes based on feedback from Star Marine, I think they should communicate that so that we can actually feel that what we did in Star Marine or Arena Commander actually had an effect for balance changes in the future.
I'm going to add on to that and say, CIG, you need to do more than just put that in a like a comment on Spectrum or on patch notes, because I'm going to tell you this right now, and this is going to make a lot of other people angry. Star Citizen players don't read. They refuse to read. They're either too busy or a number of different reasons. You need to put it in like an ISC. You need to like, these are the specific features that we got from players that we decided to change in an ISC, because that will make people feel like they've been heard. Because anything other than that, you're not gonna get.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. That would be great. Because most honestly, I'm someone who doesn't read only because I work a lot, and I'm usually listening to podcasts going over the monthly reports on my drives. So that's how I'm consuming that content.
I have successful content every month because people don't read. I know that. I do a video reading through the entirety of the monthly report every month, and it gets over 1,000 views. And it's always my best content.
The drive home from work, just let's go. There's traffic. It's got an hour drive. Perfect. Paul's monthly report.
It's consistently 40 minutes to an hour or more of reading. So, but let me add an additional to this. Going forward, Nick, I'll start with this one with you. What would you like to see added to Arena Commander?
Xi'an hover tank.
Okay, so more vehicles.
I gotta throw in the Xi'an hover tank wherever I can, because I want to see that so badly.
Other than pipe dreams, what would you like?
No, I would like to see a hardcore competitive mode with 1 life round based PvP modes. 3v3, 5v5, 10v10 multi crew. Just a 1 life round based competitive mode. I would love to see that come in.
Okay, is that it? Was there nothing else for like say ship based combat or anything else like that?
Master modes. Pretty simple there. We need master modes to come in and see how it feels like before I can give more input on it.
Vertigo, same thoughts with you. What would you like to see going forward for Arena Commander as it's developing?
Like future stuff for Arena Commander. I mean,
Okay.
like, obviously, like, if we were to use Arena Commander for, like, balance testing, we need to have, like, a mixed arm mode. Like, Theaters of War should come. If CIG is committed to, like, actually testing, like, everything together, Theaters of War, something like Theaters of War would make sense.
Someone needs to check the temperature in hell. Oh, my God.
I know, right?
HC Vertigo is saying, you just say that?
Like I said, if CIG is serious, about doing balance testing,
yeah,
in Arena Commander, like Star Citizen: The Persistent Universe is going to be mixed arms, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to give ground vehicles something against spaceships, because if you have air superiority wins every time. So it's got to be more than just like Star Marine and Battle Royale.
Yeah, it's got to be more than just spaceships and FPS. It's got to be a combination. Is what you're saying.
I mean, they're part of the way there. They got the Nova Tank battles mode, which is just nothing but Nova Tanks. Now they just need to get everything mixed into one pot and see how that plays together. The other problem is that CIG, and this happened to Fortnite.
Yeah.
CIG may end up creating a better game mode than the Persistent Universe and Arena Commander with Theaters of War.
Theaters of War.
It may have more people playing Theaters of War than playing the Persistent Universe.
I don't.
So everybody remembers Fortnite, and then it turned into Fortnite Saves the World, and then just Fortnite was the Battle Royale mode.
But I don't see that being as a bad thing.
I don't see it either as a bad thing, but I also don't think it's as much, because I don't think, at the end of the day, do you think Chris Roberts would see money and then just continually work on Theaters of War and just abandoned the PU? This is Chris Roberts'
I don't know.
game.
Like, that's a completely different conversation.
Yeah,
right?
that's
like,
Chris Roberts' conversation. Not
that's a conversation for another podcast, Paul.
Yes, it is. I don't know. It's completely different, because that's a strange concept. It's like this is, again, this is just personally, I don't see the hyper fixated Chris doing that when his obsession with immersion and world building.
Yeah, it's not a Chris Roberts game, but if people play it, people play it. The other problem, I want to respond to Nick, like actually having a one life game, Star Marine game mode like Counter-Strike. We actually need a player base. Like, the more modes you add, and this is another problem I have with the updates coming to Star Marine and Arena Commander, where they have like the new racing modes, the new maps, the new experimental modes, where it's like they have the gun game where you start with like a gun, then you change to different guns as you get kills, and you have like just the pistol mode, and then you have the Nova Tank mode. The more games you add to the more modes you add to your game, the more divided your community becomes, the more dilute your community becomes between all those game modes. And I've seen other games have problems with this, where they have just dozens of game modes, and certain modes have no players. You may want to play them, but because there is absolutely no player base in that mode, you cannot launch those modes because there's nobody playing them.
Mm-hmm.
And even if like Nick, you may want that mode, but if you and 5 other people are the only people that play that mode, and it takes at least 6 people to start the match, you may never get a match started.
Mm-hmm. I understand, but I think that game mode can also be applied to, like, the ships and every game mode, not just Star Marine.
Yeah. Like, sometimes I want to play Vandal Swarm, and nobody's trying to play Vandal Swarm when I log in. So it's just like, okay, all right, I guess I'll go back to the Persistent Universe.
So you think it's either solo or not at all?
Yeah. So you either play solo or not at all, yeah.
So what you're saying is that because you're spoiled for choice, sometimes you just spread the community out into multiple different things that are too.
Yeah, well, the community usually picks. This is one of the reasons why I don't like CIG putting a lot of experimental modes in there. We used to have Capture the Sphere mode in Arena Commander.
Yeah, I remember that.
Back when we just had spaceships before Star Marine was a thing. You'd have to fly around. You'd have like a goal on each side of the map for the. It's like a battle royale. It was a squadron battle where you had one team versus another team, and each side of the map had a goal and a ball in it. You'd fly through the goal, the enemy team's goal. You pick up the ball and you attach yourself to your ship, and you fly through your goal, and then you score a point. That mode went away because almost nobody was playing it.
Yeah, I remember that. It kind of just dropped. So it's an interesting question though as well. Now let's. I was trying hard to tackle that one because I want to ask this question as well.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be okay with CIG limiting the number of modes, or maybe having it so that like say Halo had done this in the past, and I think other games have done this in the past.
I think Battlefield does it currently too, where they have a certain flavor of the week that comes up in rotation, and you can create a custom server and create that mode again if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. But the official servers, you'll have like 1 week to play this one special mode that the developers created, and then it rotates out, and maybe it'll come back.
Yeah.
So
or having a hopper where you click match play and it just drops you into a randomized mode of whatever you're playing. Sometimes it'll be a Star Marine map, sometimes it'll be an Arena Commander map, and you just kind of play. It drops you from game to game to game to game. You don't have a choice on the map.
I would love to see something like you click a quick play button, and it just whatever's queued up is you get dropped into. So you could select. Can I say just how much I hate the UI for the new Arena
one?
Commander?
Okay.
It's just gigantic wall of like fat icons, and it looks like a mobile app, and I hate it. I hate how UI developers love it. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you can't have like drop down menus or sliders anymore, or buttons you click on to toggle on and off. You have to have this big fuck off wall that takes up your entire goddamn monitor with cool little decals that like little screenshots, little desktop wallpapers that are like 480 by like 320 icons that you click on that have a word on it. I hate it. Don't like it. So I don't I don't know what you could do better, CIG, but that is not what I like.
You get it.
And as I know, for someone who's like an artist or something, they hate hearing that. I don't know what I like, but I hate that.
You're screaming at CIG to get off your grass.
The only thing
These darn kids.
The one thing I'm excited for when it comes to that new UI is the fact that it's no longer a Flash-based UI system.
Yes, me too. I'm glad that it's this new building block stuff so they can iterate on it.
We've seen how quickly they iterate on the building block stuff in the past. Mm-hmm. Like entire screens have changed over within 1 or 2 patches.
It's this 3x3 grid of every mode on there in Arena Commander and Star Marine. It's just like you're mixing the FPS modes in with the spaceship modes and the racing modes. And as a user, how do you know what the hell is in there unless you look really hard at all the icons and you read the stuff?
I do agree with that point. It's hard to distinguish what's an Arena Commander and what's an FPS game mode with the UI icons. And I think if there was a drop-down menu and a more conventional PC,
you have a choice of like ship, ground vehicle, racing. Like you have like a little drop-down menu. What do you want to play? And then you select what you want to play. Do you want to play on foot? Do you want to play vehicle? Do you want to play ship? You select that, you click Find Match, and then the timer goes up, and you can start inviting people into your matchmaker, into your couch area. I like to go back to the idea of like Halo 2, where they had the couch co-op or couch multiplayer, where you invited people into your party, and that was your couch that people were sitting on with you. And they would go from mode to mode to mode with you. When you finished a mode, you load into another mode with the same people.
They kind of have the start of that with this new one, because that's one of the things, the new couch mode where you can like invite people in the party and you have VoIP in the party.
Yeah, the friends list actually works in Arena Commander now, which is, I'm looking forward to that, because now you can just invite people into your friends list. And because before you have people in your party on the main menu, but that did nothing for Arena Commander. If you had a party started and you went to Arena Commander, you had to re-invite everybody into Arena Commander to start the match with those people. So I'm looking forward to more stuff. VoIP being able to work, being able to mute people, being able to like do more stuff, like right-click on people's names and mute them. Like it's a simple thing, but there's some people you don't want to listen to.
Can I have that in the verse, CIG? Can I have that in the game?
Exactly. Like, just have this in the verse. If there's one thing that needs to come from an Arena Commander to the PU immediately, it's the mute button.
The mute and
probably
those are the two.
That's probably the Twitch streamer in me talking, but being able to mute people would be a big deal for guys like me and Paul.
I don't think it's just Twitch. I mean, there's a lot of Twitch streamers who've brought this up. A lot of content creators have brought this up in the past. But like, I think the average person just, there's that person in chat who just won't shut up there's a reason why the second I log in, I hit F12 immediately to turn off the chat, because I just don't want the roulette.
You don't want to see what they say sometimes.
I'm playing Russian roulette with content. Like, there could be some harmless stuff, or it could be just straight up like the most foulest stuff you've ever heard in the history of mankind.
For where you know that person's going to get banned on Spectrum, and you know that person's going to get you banned on Twitch because for what they said.
Yeah.
It's just like
I haven't had to report too many people over the years for me playing Star Citizen, but sometimes you'll see somebody post something in the global chat, and it's just like, I literally reach over on my stream deck and I change scenes, then I hit print screen, and then I go to customer support to submit a ticket to get that person banned.
Yeah.
There's been just I can count it on one hand the number of times I've had to do that while I was live on Twitch. It's not very often, but it has been there. And then basically I have to turn the chat off, hit F12, and then I can't use chat while I'm on that server ever again because of the risk.
It's a problem that CIG needs to address in some way, shape, or form. They've refused to. The fact that they had the mute button in Arena Commander is probably, I'm going to say, outside of maybe experimental modes and kind of like them actually using Arena Commander for its original purpose, I'd say the mute button is probably the biggest news out of Arena Commander, just because it implies that we may be able to get that in Star Citizen, and it's just like, oh, CIG's finally moderating our ability to see people for, oof. All right, so let's talk a little bit more. Let's kind of wrap this up with, do you think, and I'll start with you on this one, Nick, on this one, because I know Vertigo's thought is, do you think that they will continue to support Arena Commander and expand its options? With things like as we talked about with the UI, maybe like changing the UI up. Do you think we're going to start seeing actual changes to Arena Commander beyond 320? Or is this another one of those CIGs, we released a new thing and now we're just going to abandon it for another 3 years or so?
I mean, because the fact that it's using building blocks and they're going to be continuously working on building blocks and all that UI stuff and all these other gameplay stuff to come in online afterwards, I think it's fair to say that they will still keep on working on it, especially when they dedicated a team to that specifically. So I think that they will definitely be continuing to work on it. It's just, what is the limitations that they're able to achieve with that small team?
Okay. Vertigo, same thoughts to you. Do you think this is is this a Star Marine issue? Like, remember when they released Star Marine and they just abandoned it for up till recently, or Arena Commander?
Oh man. Well, the problem is that CIG's got a lot of irons in the fire. I mean, they got the Persistent Universe, Squadron 42. They have Arena Commander, which is like Star Marine, the Swarm modes, the PvP modes, the racing modes, the free flight modes. And then you have like the website as well. And then you have stuff like FOIP and voice over IP, and then you have the database stuff on the back end. So there's a lot of stuff they're doing all at once. And sometimes, you have to prioritize what you're working on. So Star Marine sometimes, Star Marine, Arena Commander, and racing modes, they sometimes fall behind. So I'm hoping with all the tools CIG's created that we'll see a lot more. We'll see maybe one or two people who are able to actually maintain these modes, or it makes it easier for CIG to maintain these modes in the future. And we actually see a resurgence, a renaissance of Arena Commander where people actually go in there and want to play stuff. We see more balanced testing and tuning in there, and a lot more feedback coming from those modes. And like, hey, CIG, this mode is fun. Hey, CIG, this mode could be fun. Maybe if you did this. Hey, CIG mode, this mode is not good. So I'm hoping more for the future. So I want to be positive though.
You're salty, but you want to be. You don't want to be pessimistic.
I don't want to be believe. Saltwater. I want to be a salmon. I want to be a salmon. Where part of my life is salt water, but the other half of my life is fresh water. I want to be swimming up that river to die by having sex.
That's coming to Star Citizen anytime soon.
That is a metaphor for Star Citizen. There, I'm upset.
I want to be like Leonardo DiCaprio and find some young Amazon to like give me a heart attack in bed, and that's it. That's my life.
You want Star Citizen development needs to be going from saltwater to freshwater, only to die by having sex.
Death by snoo.
Death by snoo.
All right. I wanted to add up a little bit more, but I don't think we have much more. Oh, this is the last. I will say this is the last kind of big thing, because this is a huge deal. Now, it's not the only things that are coming in 320. We know that, for instance, we've got the whole C is coming in 320. They've got new missions. They've got new trespass stuff, and there's a ton of new stuff which is kind of waiting in the wings for approval or final sign off. But with 320 possibly being one of the last patches of the year, because it can drop, for those of you who are new, since Star Citizen or since CIG has been working on CitizenCon, they tend to post their fall patches or quarter 3 patches after CitizenCon when they do live CitizenCons. Recently, we've been spoiled for choice because CIG is like with 317.2 was released in August rather than being released in October. And I think even the patch before that, because they're doing digital CitizenCon, they could put more effort. But they usually pull people off of the development teams for stuff for CitizenCon. And as a result, you tend to have that delay of about a month or so of content. But that could be changed. We don't know. It's been a long time since this happened. We could be entirely wrong. CIG has not told us when the release date of 320 is being set for, other than Q3. So it could release anytime between August and October.
Well, I don't think it's gonna be that bad because persistent energy streaming was a big disruptive tech. Yeah. And that obviously took a lot before they could even get it to Evocati, because it was just, even when it got to Evocati, even when it got to the PT, it was still kind of messy. Then it gets to live, it's even messier. But
yeah, well, the question,
so they don't have that breaking their backs right now.
The question is more, with this being possibly one of the last patches of the year. It's one of the last 2 patches. We've had 318, which was big and disruptive. 319, which added some cool stuff, but it wasn't really a huge kind of content patch. Do you think it's possible, and I'll start with you, Vertigo, on this one. Do you think it's possible that what we're going to get with 320 is just the whole sea, some missions, and Arena Commander?
320.
That's all that's on the
320 is going to be around
right
CitizenCon Arena Commander. So I would imagine that we're going to get more unannounced ships besides the whole sea.
Besides the whole sea?
Yeah, so we're going to get more there, because usually that third quarter patch, which is kind of like what 320 is, if I'm doing my math correctly, is usually Arena Commander, or not Arena Commander.
CitizenCon.
is usually CitizenCon patch.
Yes.
And usually CIG adds more because of CitizenCon. So do we have hidden game modes? Do we have hidden stuff? I think you look at the release view, and what's on the release view is the stuff that CIG is willing to maybe commit to for 320. If other stuff comes online,
could you add more caveats to that? Willing maybe to commit to?
Well, they're most confident about that stuff. The stuff you actually see on the release view is the stuff they're most confident. And usually the next patch after the one that just released is usually the most accurate. Like when the roadmap in the current graphic form was released, that was usually the rule of thumb that everybody seemed to ignore. Was after this patch releases, everybody, whatever's on the release view for the next patch is usually the most accurate and probably going to make. Maybe. But there's always a chance of moving stuff around. And I think CIG's kind of tired of the community just whining about stuff getting pushed back. That's why they changed the roadmap. So they're not really looking to upset the community. So they put the stuff on there that's most likely to make it. Okay. So stuff like the whole sea and whatnot like that. So are we going to get more stuff? Yeah, we could probably get more stuff, probably more missions, more modes. But I'm not really, I can't really think of more stuff that CIG could add besides maybe like a UI update for some ships. Some ships may become gold standard, like the Freelancer, that may not make like a special card for. Like you open your Freelancer up and like, my Freelancer is different. There's like components now that I could take out.
Yeah,
and some other stuff.
Okay, so you think we'll get more stuff, but you don't foresee us having like a surprise, salvage is now complete, or like bounty hunting version 2, which has been talked about. Do you foresee anything like that coming in?
I don't. Like, there's nothing stopping CIG from surprising us, but I am one of those cynics that's like, it's hard for me to predict what CIG would surprise us with, because chances are it's probably going to be like, oh, surprise, this patch is a lot smaller than it used to be. That's CIG usually takes stuff from us instead of gives us stuff.
Yep.
Nick, same thoughts, same question to you. Do you think we're going to Is this all we're going to get? Do you think we're going to get more than what we see on the roadmap? And if so, like how much more?
I mean, I think we'll see. Next week's Inside Star Citizen is probably going to be the main indicator on if we're going to get more stuff or not. That's going to be really any kind of surprises. But I think I think this will mostly be the biggest thing outside of some quality to life changes. I highly doubt CIG is going to do a surprise like here's EVA 2.0 or here's Parkour 2.0. You know, I think those are going to be more reserved for like CitizenCon or 4.0. I mean, I definitely would not have any hopes of a star map rework yet. I think that would be saved for 4.0 if they were going to do that. I think a lot of those kind of things that they're going to kind of save for 4.0 and not 3.2, 320.
The other 3.2, 320.
The other 3.2.
Yeah.
320.
All right. Okay. That's kind of what I wanted to end it on. That's going to be the end of our discussion section. But we're going to be moving on to the question and answer session. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, if this is just like the little clip or just like the discussion section, you can come join us. Of course, come join us live. But if you want to watch the full thing, I'll put the link to the VOD right above Nick's head. And if you're listening on the podcast, we'll just be rolling it directly into the question and answer session. So you'll hear me kind of do the outro, and then we'll just be rolling right into that part. So yeah, thank you again for Nick. Make sure you check it out at twitch.tv/heyitsnick and kick.com/heyitsnick. I think that's what it is.
Yes.
And then twitch.tv/hcvertigo to check out their content, when they're live. And thank you again for coming on. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. I'm going to use the restroom real quickly before we get started. That way we can get back to it. So, yes, chat, we still got question and answers there, chat. I saw a bunch of people asking, like, wait, 320's coming out? You think 3 coming out this month? No, 320's not coming out this month. No, there's no chance. Like, the earliest 320 is going to come out is August. That's the earliest we'll see it. Because
I'm still waiting for 319.1 to come out. Where the heck is that?
All right, I'll be right back, chat. Don't go. We'll be right back, and then we'll check in and make sure you're good to go. All right. All right, I'm back. I'm going to double check real quick. See if they're back yet. I completely forgot to do the virtual camera. I'm an idiot.
Oh, no.
There we go. No, it's just for you guys, so y'all can see.
I know.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you about it, but I was just like,
I'm not going to bring it up. It's not important.
Yeah.
I have the stream up.
Monitor.
Okay, there we go. I got everything good. We're going to go with stop virtual camera. I'm going to check the time. Or not stop virtual channel. Keep that up. Got stop studio.
One second. I got to be right back. I got to use the bathroom now.
Go for it. Yeah, use it now just because this is going to be a long time because we've already got, let's see, 25 questions. Some of them are pretty simple, but like there's a lot of them, especially since that beginning questions for actually there's not a lot of questions for like pay to win stuff. It's all stuff focused on.
Paul, why would you say that? Now you're gonna have another 25 questions roll in.
We've already had that conversation though. So
it's like people haven't like asked questions about it.
yeah, but
Like now
we've
they're
already
gonna start asking questions about pay to win.
we'll
It's
just-
like Derek Smart. You don't say Derek Smart's name, and Derek Smart. Oh no.
I have stopped caring about that sort of stuff and just been
Me too.
just ignoring it, just because this doesn't make any sense. It just there comes a point when some people are just doing it for drama, and I'm like, whatever. I don't care.
Are we back on the pay to win?
No, I just
Paul
mentioned it. All the answer will just be we've talked about it before the stream. Watch it then and go back and watch that.
Yeah.
Watch the spiciest pre-show the Captain's Table has ever had.
Yeah. It's a topic that's been brought up before on the Captain's Table in the pre-show. So, all right, we're all good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take the timestamp real quick, which is 49:24. Okay. So what I do is I for those of you who are wondering, I go back to the timestamp and then I'll actually add that timestamp live into the broadcast as I'm going. And
Don't just use markers.
49. I'll just go 50. So that way it'll automatically update for the chapters. So when people are like, "Hey, where's the Q&A? When's the discussion start?" It's like it's already there. You already have the chapters. You know to jump if you want to. All right, let's get back to the question answers. Welcome back to the question answer session. Thank you for listening on the podcasts, and thank you for who are watching us live. I'm still with Nick and Vertigo. We're going to be taking the questions from the chat live right away. And again, as a reminder, please do follow their content. They're fantastic content creators, worth your time, worth your effort, worth your subscriptions. There's been many a times I've been watching their content where I've lost my mind in terms of humor and hilarity and other things that have happened. Let alone the amount of times I've seen Nick hijack my channel to such great, wonderful degrees, including role-playing, drunkenly jumping off of a 400i to try to do a hold my beer situation. Can you jump between the bottom of the stairs and the X1 bay while in flight? The answer is no. No, you cannot.
I kind of have a habit of that, just of getting into people's streams and just having a fun time and everyone laughing.
It's great. It's fantastic. All right. So the first question, it comes from Sergeant Halfsack, who asks, for everyone else that's not Paul, what's your opinion of the Reliant Tana? Vertigo? What's your opinion of the Tana?
The Mako, the Kori, the Sen. You want the Reliant Tana.
There's just the Tana. Yeah.
Probably it's big, it's fat, it has it's literally the broadside of a barn in space.
It's the combat version, for those of you who are wondering.
Yeah, it's the combat version of the Reliant series. And it's got a huge missile magazine, and they gave it more missiles on an update. I got some multi-crew stuff going with it. You can only remote control one turret. It should have like the ability to remote control both turrets from the co-pilot seat, but it's fat for what little it does. That's kind of the problem I have with the Reliant series, and Tana's no different. Missiles now are kind of like a nightmare, and I think the Tana has like a magazine of like size 2 missiles. It's like 20 size 2, 24 size. I have to look it up. It's got a huge internal magazine of size 2 missiles.
It's got 20 size 2 missiles, yeah.
Yeah, plus another... I think it has more hanging off the side now, besides the internal magazine.
It has 16 internal and 4 external.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at.
So it has like 4 external. So it's actually a pretty decent like magazine of missiles. So if you want a missile skirmisher, like the Tana is a good support boat. Almost the same usability as a Cutlass, except like bigger. And not nearly as well shielded.
So much easier to take out than a Cutlass.
Yeah. It has cargo bay in the back. It has like nice amenities in the back of it, which lends credence to being like a nice little camper as well. A little bit of cargo space, so you can take some loot back with you. But you're not salvaging a reclaimer in this thing. You're going to do like a mission, and then blowing a ship up, and then going inside of it, finding a couple cool guns to put in your rack, and maybe like a nice little box of maize or something, and then going to sell it. Like I said, it's a -1 cutlass essentially. Instead of like being a better cutlass, it's a worse cutlass, worse version of the cutlass. So I mean, honestly, like you're better off with like an Avenger Titan instead of the Tana. But if you like the idea of the Tana, like go for it. Like it's not. I think it's like $90 for the Reliant series. I can't remember how much the Tana
it's $75. The Tana is $75. Okay. So.
Tana is $75, so it's not that bad of an ask for like a buy-in cost. I don't think you can get a starter pack with it.
No.
Okay, it's cheaper in game.
It's cheaper in game. It's one of those things where if you wanted to like it's not a bad. I don't think it's a bad evolution. Like if you started off as a combat pilot and you wanted to have some friends and it's not that much compared to the
It's
other
designed to
ships
be
in
an
this line.
entry-level multi-crew ship.
Yeah.
But multi-crew is kind of like right now it's like, oh, you got a turret operator. There's really nothing else for the other person to do besides use the turret. And I believe it locks you out. If you have like 2 turrets attached to the thing, the turret guy, I think gets to choose one or the other turret, and I think the other turret gets locked out. So you can only choose one turret, and it locks you out of the other turret, and there's like a bug with it. I would like it more if CIG gave it like extra hit points. It's really big target. It needs more to it. In a dogfight, it's not very good maneuverability. If you have, like I say, if a second person in there, that other turret really does put out good DPS, but I believe it's only size 1 guns on the remote turret, or size 2 guns.
Yeah, it's not big.
So it's not a brilliant levels of firepower. But if you had the co-pilot control both turrets at the same time, and you get 4 size 2s.
It has 2 size 3s and 2 size 1s.
That's in the combat one. If you take you can take those off. The Tana, you can take those off and put like the remote turrets on there, which has like size 1 mounts on it. But yeah, the size 3s are on there. But honestly, like 2 size 3s and 2 size 2s or 2 size 1s.
With the same DPS as an arrow.
Yeah, the same DPS as an arrow, and it's the size as like 3 arrows.
Yeah, it's the
and it has the
size
same shields as like a Gladius, and it's just way too easy to destroy. I don't recommend it for anybody. Really, there's better ships in that class around that class for multi-crew, like the Cutlass or the Hurricane. I'm trying to think of a ship around that role that actually has internal components. That's actually like a 2-person multi-crew ship, but there's really not besides the Cutlass.
Nick, your thoughts on the Tana?
I think it's. I mean, if you want that alternative just for the visual aesthetics, I don't think it's a bad option. I just don't think it's the best option if you're looking at statistics only. But I think if you want that visual style, go for it. You're not going to have a bad time with it.
Even though you didn't ask me, Sergeant Halfsack, I've always said that it's an interesting ship that requires a lot of content that's not in the game yet, and it requires a lot of love. It's a great mercenary ship. If you and your bud just want to go out and do bunker missions, it's got 2 beds. It's got enough space for some small cargo, like a small 1 SCU box. And you've got a decent gun, decent guns on a ship. It's like the Connie. It requires additional gameplay loops and additional parts of Star Citizen to come online before you'll fully appreciate what it can do for you. Yes. But right now, it's kind of like a dead duck. I barely see the Reliance series. Like, it's basically, the Reliance series is like the Mustang Omega, the unicorn of the persistent universe. You don't see them hardly ever. Yeah. And someone else pointed out in chat that I was thinking about is that what's with Misk and missiles? Misk just loves their missiles. All of their ships are just chocked full of missiles. They're combat ships. They're Miskels. Even their off-brand with Mirai, like they're one of the variants is just a missile boat. Like they're just obsessed with missile boats. Because they know their customers can't aim worth a shit.
So they'll never Misk.
They'll never Misk. They'll never Misk again.
All right, Nick, I'm going to ask you this question. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Doing good. Staying out of the the smoke and the flames.
Staying out of the smoke and staying away from the 15-day-old expired wraps. Yep.
How about you, Vertigo? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I was really tired yesterday, and Star Citizen was pissing me off, so I slept I basically cut the stream out early, went to sleep, and just pretty much slept until this morning.
I've done that before.
But I'm doing better.
That's good.
Oh, that stomach cramp I got.
Yeah. I'm doing good. QPan asked the question how's everyone doing. So I'm doing okay. I spent way too much money on miniature on minis, but I managed to get a discount, free shipping, and other bonuses. So it's like I got to pay less money than I would have had to normally. But Warhammer 10th edition is the big pre-order box. The big box was started pre-order today. And then it's coming out in 2 weeks, and over the next couple of weeks is when the game systems are fully coming out. So it's pretty cool. But other than that, I'm doing great. I'm enjoying not teaching for a couple more weeks. All right, Ziri's Dark.
Some time off.
Yes. Ziri's Dark asks, "What's the Cliff Notes versions of the AC changes for those who didn't see the vids?" I'm not going to go over it because we did go over it in the stream earlier. So if you're already at this point, go back to the beginning of the section and you can watch that. But yeah, I went over it. So all right, Irritated Considerably asks, "Do the captain's table think 0G hoverbike combat level would be good in Arena Commander?" Right now, no. It'd be a great experimental mode if they ever fixed hoverbike combat. It'd be a good way.
Do you know how bad hoverbike combat is?
It's terrible.
Like
it's
so
even
bad.
with gimbals and shotguns, it is. I've done it. Like it is almost impossible to hit anybody on a hoverbike.
Yeah.
Those things are so shaky and unstable that you're not hitting anything, even with gimbals. It's just
with the
recent
updates they did to the hoverbikes, they wanted the hoverbikes to feel more connected to the ground. So every rock you go over causes your bike to rock. So you hit a little bump, a divot, anything, and it just you're now pointed at the sky, and now you're in a divot. So now you're pointed at the ground, now at the sky, the ground, the sky. You can't hit anything, even with like auto gimbals enabled and a shotgun equipped into your ship. You're not hitting shit.
Yeah.
Like, do we want it to be more reactive? Yes, but we want it to be smooth.
Yes.
Yeah.
like a hover vehicle should be.
I'd rather them not have it as reactive as at all. I'd rather just be able to hover over stuff, kind of like maybe this much movement, if any.
There should be some movement over larger objects, but smaller objects should not have that much of an impact.
Yeah, you feel every small object you touch, so it would be atrocious. And some vehicles like the Nox can't actually effectively use their guns because their guns are like so low on them, so the gimbals don't move far enough to actually shoot anything.
Yeah.
You do not want to fight with like hover bikes right now.
Yeah, there's definitely some work that they need to do for it to make it better overall. What CIG did was they made it so that it was impossible. You didn't feel anything. You just flew. You were basically like flying a ship through it, and could increase your height, and it was crazy what you could do with it before. And then they made, okay, now we want to make it more responsive, and now it's just like that is what it's like to fly a hover vehicle through any kind of like miniature rock like slide. It's like being jolted around on a which makes no sense. You're on a hover vehicle.
Imagine wakeboarding in an earthquake, and Jello. That's kind of what it feels like. Honestly, to me, it's just kind of nauseating to fly the dragonflies around Noxes. Like I don't enjoy being on them because it just messes with your camera too much.
Irritated Considerably does point out that he did say 0G combat, but how often
0G.
But how often do you get into 0G combat with
you have to force it if you want like a hover bike.
You really have to force the hover.
You basically have to arrange it.
There's also a really bad issue right now with space stations and ASOP is that if you're at a station and you do want to bring out a hover vehicle, it's not going to bring it out to a pad, and it's most likely going to spawn in a hangar where the doors are on the top. So good luck getting it out of a space station for quick spawning, Pug.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because sometimes it doesn't always have that. Yeah. There's
and also consider like the 0G movement for bikes is much higher than their land equivalents. Because no atmosphere, and CIG just nerfs them when they're in the atmosphere. And hover bikes are about the size of a person. It's almost impossible to hit something that small in Star Citizen at the speeds they move at.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna. They have shield generators, so it's gonna take a long time for you actually to get the shields down. We've done it. On land. It's almost impossible to kill a hover bike, but you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
In space, like you have to find each other first, and hover bikes have a long distance. They have to be very short distances before you actually detect them on your scanners, even when you're in another hover bike. So, if you were like around a space station, you drift too far apart from each other, you can't see each other anymore. And it's just like, where'd the other person go? I don't know.
And that brings up to the point where it's like, would it actually matter for CIG to add an experimental mode for that sort of thing? Mm-hmm. No, because it's like there's no reason to do it until it becomes an actual like mode, like a viable combat mode. So no matter what, like hover bikes are just in a bad position.
And this, and there's another thing to talk about balance. Like I don't think Star Citizen is ever going to be a truly balanced game.
No,
there's going to be certain ships that are designed to just. That are going to be, for some reason of design, that are going to just be clearly superior than other ships, and CIG is going to have to do like MechWarrior Online, where they have like quirks. Like this ship has better shield regeneration, just because it's not nearly as good as this other ship. So we need to give some space magic to make this ship better. But vehicles like the Dragonfly aren't necessarily supposed to be very powerful. They're supposed to be utilitarian. They're supposed to like give you the ability to move around a level faster or increase your walking speed and distance compared to like
And the same goes with like no one's going to sit there and be like balance the Aurora. Like against what? An Idris?
Against what?
What are you going to balance it against? Other light fighters?
It's
like it's going to get fucking trumped, like absolutely beat down by a Gladius. When it comes to that, how do you balance a Gladius in terms of its fire combat mode? It's like sheer combat against the Aurora.
Here's another thing. Can you imagine like a version of Star Citizen where the Prospector is a legit threat to a light fighter? Any light fighters.
The laser beams are super far, and the gimbal is super accurate and fast, and you just picture a giant laser sword swinging from the
basically
front
a gigantic lightsaber cutting arrows and Gladiuses in half.
How from a Prospector taking fighters?
How do you balance a raft in combat?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a raft against a constellation. They're technically the same size, right? Or about the same size. How do you do that? They're not designed for completely different things. And that's the problem when it comes to things like sandboxes, is that like a lot of balancing just can't be done with those sorts of things. So
it doesn't matter what CIG does when they do a +1 to 1 something, something's gonna be a negative attribute to that. Like no matter, balance is never going to end in Star Citizen. It's always going to be changing. It's always going to be in flux. There's never going to be a day where Star Citizen is balanced and they don't change anything again. That'll be when Star Citizen servers shut down because it's so old and we're dead.
See, Nick is an optimist. He thinks the game's going to come out before we're dead.
I didn't say when it comes out. It's so old and we're dead.
All right. Manichi asks, will they make any changes to the MSR, or will it, or is it supposed to be? If I remember correctly, they said they were going to look at it, because one of his biggest problems with the MSR is that it only has one entrance, one exit. So I think it'll probably get a gold overpass or a gold pass, but there's lots of things.
Gold overpass. Gold pass. There's a few ships that kind of have that issue too.
Gold cloverleaf, Paul.
Who cares? It's all made up anyways. All these terms. What was that, Nick?
Well, there's a few ships with that issue too. I feel like the Carrack, when that gets a gold pass, the main elevator should hopefully CIG addresses this, that the main elevator can actually just go down to the ground.
There's honestly like nothing blocking the main elevator from going all the way down.
Just put that in. It'd be a nice quality of life. You know, we don't need people to run up ramps all the time. An elevator's fine.
Slightly increase the sizes of the doors for the Carrack, so you can actually bring in components.
Give it a new docking port, just because, so that can dock properly. That'd be cool.
Slightly increase the size of the doorways so you can get into the actually bring cargo.
Actually get cargo boxes through to the cargo bays. Well, I think the cargo bays are supposed to open up.
Yeah, that's the thing. Those are supposed to be modules.
You're supposed to be able to drop them. But how would
I think you're supposed to be able to open up even if they're attached to the ship.
You should be able to open them. Like the Caterpillar, they actually have the hydraulics art there. just
do
it
they?
doesn't open.
Yeah.
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 So just like the caterpillar, or the caterpillar, just like the, I was thinking caterpillar, I was thinking the Carrack, but just isn't the guy who did the Fury now been tossed at the Carrack to fix the Carrack problems? If I remember correctly.
I know the Carrack's actually pretty decent the way it is. There's just small complaints.
Yeah, it's just small issues. It's not like it's not like the Starfarer where it's like.
But
give a
God
full
knows
rework.
they'll turn it into like they'll make it the worst ship because they're touching it now.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they don't. I actually like the Carrack.
If you saw the like Talking All Ships ISC, there was a lot of really interesting comments that were made, which is all good news. Now the question is if it falls through, but good news.
Good news, everybody.
Yeah,
I love my Carrack.
We've made the Carrack better.
Yeah.
Yep. I can't wait to get into Yo Mama.
Everyone, get on your mom.
HC's Virgo's got your mom, and I officially have your mama now.
Hey!
Don't worry,
Right
your
on my
mom and
Carrack, Yo Mama.
your mom and your mama are coming for backup. They're
Yeah.
they're here to save you.
When you see your mom and Yo Mama here, this is probably the one time you're going to see it on stream where we're in the same spot. I should join AC Vertigo one day and just have your mom and your mama and have like a team battle or against
One of these
something.
days, they'll get the names on the side of them. It's gonna be better when the names get on the side of the Carracks.
For those of you
have,
that,
like, I think it works on the base ship, but doesn't work on the expansion expedition.
and it's so
Yeah,
tiny.
I have the base one. You can see it on the paints, but it's so tiny. It's they need to make those bigger and more visible for sure.
For those of you who don't get it, if you didn't get it already, the name of Nick's Carrack is Yo Mama, and the name of HC Vertigo's Carrack is Your Mom. So
Everybody, quick, get to your mom. I mean, the official documentation, the official documentation says the maximum number of men you can fit in your mom is 8, but we could certainly fit 20 in her if we need to. She's got plenty of space in that hangar bay.
hey,
Let me tell you what.
your mom and your mama can hold a lot of Furies. There's a lot of snubs. There's a lot of snubs that can fit in your mama. A lot
Your
of
mom
snubs.
can dock with your mama.
That's why I named it that. That's why Nick named it that, because the jokes, they never stop.
They don't. Once you start talking about it, it's just like, this is too good. I gotta get this. I gotta get it before someone takes it.
All right, next question comes from Zal. Considering the last efforts from CIG to increase the long-term persistence in-game earned items, do you think we will see any longer times without wipes by 4.0? I think the question is, will we be seeing less wipes by 4.0? Are we going to see more wipes or less wipes? Do you think CIG is trying to actually reduce the number of wipes they have to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they're trying to reduce the number of wipes because they know how frustrating it is for people to have to like start over again.
And it's also bad for data. If they have to start over again, then they lose those people leave, and then they don't get those people to come back, or it takes a while. And it's a whole, like, getting engagement is a bad problem, but that also means
they don't get the data of what it's going to be like when things are persisting and what players do when items persist. That data won't exist if they keep doing wipes. So how are they supposed to react to data and make changes to data if they keep wiping it before they can even receive appropriate and substantial data?
Yeah, so
I think there'll be a big wipe on 4.0, but I think after that it'll probably be maybe like,
I mean, I don't even know if we'll get a wipe for 4.0, honestly.
I'm with you.
Persistent NE streaming was like the big database thing, and that separated the game service from the database. So the database is just kind of on its own. Like the game will literally draw from the persistent database, like for any shard that wants that data.
I can see where Nick's point, though. It's like 4.0 might have it just because they want a clear slate with a new with 2. But I also don't think CIG wants to wipe until they absolutely have to. And I think the next time they'll absolutely have to is when they bring in the economy, to persist the dynamic economy systems with the quantum and stuff like that more integrated. But that'll be again just for data purposes where they want to.
And even when those systems comes in, CIG can't just wipe the money. Yeah, they have that ability now.
Yeah, they can just
pick what they want to get rid of.
Yeah, which makes more sense too, because if you're looking at a kind of a realistic universe, we were talking about this before the stream as well, which is, the pre-show. I'm not going to bring up that cluster too much, but people are going to start with multiple ships in the universe. It's something that's going to happen when the game goes live, or when it reaches its live version. You'll have people who have started with stuff that are already there. So just wiping money makes sense because you're testing the same stuff. How do these people, money and reputation and stuff like that. So, all right, next question comes from, there's a question that, so 320, I don't think we'll see 320 get wiped. Like, I don't think we'll see.
No, I don't think we'll see a wipe for 320 either. Like, CIG is definitely trying to avoid that, because we literally had 2 wipes back to back just recently, and that was very frustrating for the community. They got a lot of pushback on that.
320 is just another branch of 318, 319. So there's not much change there happening to warrant any kind of wipe.
Is it a branch of 318? I thought it was its own standalone.
I think it's a standalone.
I haven't heard anything
patch.
official.
I think it's a standalone patch, but I think it's just going off of a branch of 319. 319 is a standalone patch, but it's still a branch of 318. It's kind of the same situation. It's going down that olive branch of 318 before 4.0. I don't think it's its own standalone.
I don't think so.
It is a standalone patch, but I think it's going off of 318's root.
Okay, so
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's a branch of game dev, but I don't think it's I don't think it's a significant branch from game dev. It's not. We're not seeing something completely new from it. But all right. Next question comes from Unknown Guardian, who asks: Arena Commander private matches when or at all? I think it's planned.
I mean, we had them.
Yeah.
At one point in time, and they were disabled because reasons. I can't remember exactly what reason CIG gave for disabling private matches, but they went away, and they're supposed to come back at some point. I don't know when they're supposed to come back. I don't know if CIG knows when they're supposed to come back, but the fact that we're seeing more updates for Arena Commander means that maybe pretty soon that we'll see private matches again.
Private matches would be good.
I don't see a huge technical hurdle for private matches once they get all the front end UI worked out and everything. So, all right. Unknown Guardian asks, now that CIG works a lot on Arena Commander, how likely is it that Theaters of War is incorporated at some point soon, TM-ish? We kind of talked about that already. It's already being incorporated in 320 because they've changed the spawn screens for Theaters of War is what all the Arena Commander spawn screens are now. They just took that spawn screen and then just applied it to all of the matches. So, as I've said, Theaters of War is dead. Long live Theaters of War, because it's not dead. The idea of Theaters of War as a standalone concept is dead, but combined arms warfare is 100% in the cards. It's gonna come at some point. It's just a matter of when rather than if at this point. It's just no longer going to be called Theaters of War, I don't think. Just like I think they'll stop the name Star Marine. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they completely changed the Arena Commander title in some way. So. Theaters of War is dead. Long lives Venues of Combat. What do you think, Nick? Do you think we're going to see Theaters of War incorporated at some point?
I think Theaters of War is dead. I think what we're seeing now is just what was kind of extracted of the husk of Theaters of War for the UI and things. And I think going forward, we will see combined arms combat, maybe even a similar Theaters of War game mode with what they planned. But I think it's going to be a lot more contained. I don't think it's going to be what they were planning with Theaters of War, where it was the full planet with 3 stages, in space, in Atmo, and then at a space station, in space and in Atmo, and then on ground. I think it'll be a contained ground, in space, in Atmo, and then in space station. I think it'll be much more focused with what they do, and we won't get that full Theaters of War experience, which I could be wrong, but I think they're going to be a much more focused scenarios and game modes than what was promised with Theaters of War.
Vertigo, what do you think?
I don't know. Theaters of War, I'm just so over it. Just push it out, get done, cancel it, stop talking about it. I just don't want to talk about Theaters of War because it just constantly upsets everybody. Where is it, CIG? They're not working on it. Doesn't exist until it does.
All right, next question comes from Unknown Guardian, who asks, he's asked a lot of questions. After what CIG told us about the new Arena Commander, what are the things that would still change? What were the things that you would still change and how? I think we talked about that in the discussion section. So I'm going to move on from that one. Because that's basically what we talked about. That was
the whole discussion.
All right, we brought up like one life mode and more connections with things like the master modes and stuff like that as more testing and so on and so forth. So, Unknown Guardian asks, how would an Arena Commander co-op horde horde mode look like? We already have that.
Infinite Vandal Swarm.
That's coming in. Yeah, that's coming in 320. And maybe if you're looking at like a 320, or not 320, like a FPS version, it probably looks something like Call of Duty Zombies, similar kind of thing.
To do that, we would need the FPS AI in Arena Commander, which would actually be a good test bed to test the FPS AI.
It would basically
all the
be
servers
like
are running like shit and don't run AI.
Yeah,
you basically just have a bunch of T-posing enemies, like falling out of elevators. If we had like a horde mode for Star Marine.
It would look like a Gmod server recreating World War Z. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
The movie.
Wait. I'll do just a Star Marine FPS AI thing.
Oh, but he's gonna stand. He's gonna T-pose on the chair. He's gonna stand on the chair.
I think CIG would, before we got to see something like that for FPS, we would definitely need CIG's new FPS or new AI things that they've developed for Squadron 42 that they're going to be porting into Star Citizen. They've even said like, just Star Citizen is so bad right now. There's no way they could support those AI because you never know if that AI is even functioning or not because the servers are so garbage. So it's a matter of when they can import that stuff in, I think, is more like it. But if it would look like any other kind of game mode you have right now. All right. Arena Commander map inside Sand Cave. Yeah. Why not? Arena Commander games and maps.
Sand caves are really tiny, though.
Just shrink down the ships and just be like, like
Theories.
flying. Remember that one episode of Deep Space Nine where they shrunk down that shuttle and they were shooting like Jemadar with like the shuttle's weapons?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Oh my god, just mini ships or mega map, just mini ships and just
we literally ships. Chris Roberts heard us say that and he's like, yeah, we should have that. We've added 2 years to development, everybody.
Way to go.
Just
good job on Unknown Guardian.
It's all your fault.
All right. Doc Platypus asks, how long until we see a PvP large/capital ship FPS map? Like running around a Carrack
probably
or
1 hour from now.
Soon, TM. I don't think
TM.
I don't think the Arena Commander team wants to put, like, say, the Starfarer as an Arena Commander map, even like an FPS map, even though it's literally built as an FPS map, because it's terrible. It's a terrible internal design.
When it first came out, the talking point was we built a flying FPS map. That was like the thing for the Starfarer, because they just wanted to see if the tech was possible to get an FPS map to fly.
Yeah. And now it is the biggest joke of all of the games. Next to, gosh, there's one or two other interior designs which is just like the Freelancer. Like what is this? Or the interior of the Constellation, but like the Starfarer, I think, takes the cake for being the most ugly and useless interior that they have ever made. It was beautiful when it first came out, but it was
the first big ship they did. So
yeah. They used to crash servers when they spawned them. Just it existing would crash. Let's see. Would a lot of Arena Commander game modes require a game mode rotation? Yes, I think we talked about that as well. Will 320 focus only on Arena Commander, or will there be more content coming to the PU? We talked about that a little bit. Yes, there will be more content coming to the PU, but I don't know how much. That was literally the last question I asked. So yes, we already asked that question. Tech Zero says, once again, I keep getting lost in Nick's eyes. How is this so? Because he's got sexy eyes. He's got Todd Pappy
He also
eyes.
has better lighting than I do because I got too deep. My shadows are a little too deep by my eye socks.
Yeah, and I'm wearing glasses, so you'll just
My
see
lighting
my
is
ring light.
just my monitors and LED light strips. That's it. It's all it's all the camera and the lens I have to have a low aperture.
Bedroom eyes. Yes. All right, kind of.
He has nice big eyes where I have like little beady eyes because the camera's too far away. Maybe if I just move the camera closer to my face.
What you're saying is that Nick is an anime character. He's an anime protagonist.
Yes. Wow.
Gosh, I hate myself.
You too?
You too, Uwu?
God damn it. Oh God. Halfsack asks, should I build a statue of Paul in my Minecraft world? Yes, do it.
Yes.
No balls.
Make it out of make it out of butter. That way it's
Yes.
a tasteful butter statue.
Yo, I'll join anyone's Minecraft server that gets me away from Star Citizen. Please. Give game.
Let's see what else we got. So Unknown Guardian asks, since the ship like the Kraken and the Idris will likely just inhale whatever the fuel, what is everything in the fuel tank in one go while in atmosphere, do you think the SRV is a must-have for orgs that want to, for example, get a fully loaded Kraken from ground to space? I don't know if you can double up on the SRVs to give them support for that sort of thing. I don't think it's going to be possible. I mean,
using two SRVs to like tractor beam something heavier.
Yeah, take say instead of like basically using a tugboat, whereas like to save on fuel costs, you have SRVs that pull things.
It depends on how CIG does it. I mean, if CIG allows it so that the SRV just creates an attachment point to the Kraken, without a limitation on how many SRVs can attach to it, then I could see it just based on the physics, like sandbox point of view of it should be possible. But if CIG does put a check in, then that's a limitation that CIG is putting in place themselves to stop things from breaking with physics.
Chat's reminding me that it was supposed to be you can build multiple SRVs in a single ship, but if I remember correctly, there was an upward limit. It wasn't like you could take 4 or 5 SRVs and just yeet a Kraken. If I remember correctly, it was like a constellation or something like that was the upper limit. There was a limit to the number that you could use on it.
I think there's a limit, but I think that's going to be more of they'll have to test and see what the limit is before the engine is like, we're dying.
Yes, there's going to be testing that has to happen. I think similar to like how you can salvage only part size 1 and 2 parts right now. I think that'll be the case. Is like the SRV when it first comes out will have a limit. So I don't know if it'll be required for Krakens to have SRVs. Or for orgs to have SRVs.
I would expect the Kraken would have tractor beams built into it.
Well, it's more of as a means to like lift it off the ground to save on fuel costs for getting it off.
Oh, you're talking about like using the well, they said you should be able to team up on stuff. I vaguely remember that with the SRVs. So you could pull like Javelin into orbit if you had enough SRVs. They've said I think.
Mm-hmm. So I don't think it'll be required. I think SRVs are just nice, but I don't think you're probably not landing a Kraken. To be quite honest, unless you're something very serious going on, you're probably not landing an Idris or a Kraken on a planet.
And I think the Kraken would be more suited for engineering repairs to get it back up and running than using an SRV to tow it up to orbit.
Yeah. Are we getting rated by? Yes, we're getting rated by Atmo Esports.
There you go.
Everyone from Atmo. We're coming to the question answers. So, all right. An Arena Commander game mode. Oh, this is from Unknown Guardian. An Arena Commander game mode like Marked for Death from Titanfall. Titanfall Wiki. One player from each team are marked as targets, like a VIP mode. Both teams are required to defend their own target while attempting to kill the other team's target. Once one of the marked players are killed, the surviving marks team is rewarded a point. After a few seconds, new marks are chosen. Yeah, it's just VIP or defend.
Yeah,
VIP.
it's like a hostage VIP thing from Siege.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, it comes down to the same problem that like Vertigo talked about earlier, which is when you have so many modes, eventually it's going to dilute the population where some people just will never play these modes because no one plays those modes or because there's.
I think that'd be a good mode to have in a rotation. Be like, here, you could play this mode for a week, but it'll be gone by next week. Kind of give that FOMO to like, hey, get in now and play it because it's gonna be gone.
I hate to date myself, and I know this is going to date a lot of people as well, but something like the old school MLG rotations in Halo, or like professional rotations, like pro modes would work.
Overwatch had rotations for game modes.
Yeah. Like stuff that's specifically for those sorts of like hardcore modes, like SWAT and stuff like that. All right. Astro Chronicles asks, is the Arena Commander just a smokescreen for players to have some fun for the next 3, 6, 12 months while the server meshing Pyro is still being developed? Basically, give players something while the server M and Pyro is not coming. It's not coming any soon this year. That's the question I was kind of posting around on. Like, basically, do you think that CIG is leaning into Arena Commander because they know it's going to take them a long time to get server meshing out, so they're just trying to throw us a bone while we wait?
I think
yes,
that's
Arena
reasonable.
Commander, the waiting room of Star Citizen.
I thought
Ever
that was
since
watching,
2.6.
I thought that was watching YouTube videos while you're in Quantum.
Or listening to Astro Historian videos, which you should watch.
Or
on
purchasing chips during
youtube.com/theastropub.
the Invictus launch week.
Yeah.
Hitting the refresh button for another Kraken, another crack at the Kraken.
I think that
you're always guaranteed that when the game doesn't work, the pledge store will work. The real game.
The real games. I think, honestly, I think that's giving CIG too much credit, and I don't want to sound too harsh on CIG. I think it's more that they just so happened to be a happy accident that CIG, because for those of you who don't know, like, Arena Commander was effectively abandoned before 2021. Like, they had people who would come onto it every so often, but they had hired an entire outside. CIG cared so little about Arena Commander that they paid an outside company to take care of it, which is what Fire Sprite was.
Yeah, Fire Sprite was bought out by Sony.
So it's by Sony.
so DJ, the guy who was doing all of the ISCs, the talking head from the last 2 ISCs, he was the one who came from Fire Sprite to CIG to continue to work on Arena Commander. Mm-hmm. So when Fire Sprite was bought out, they actually built their own Arena Commander team, which is like 8 or 9 people, including some big names, some old school OG original like developers and
original
producers.
recipe developers.
Yes, the Kentucky Fried Chicken of developers from Star Citizen. Some big names on those. On that team, if you follow Star Citizen long enough, you're like, wow, these people have been around since like 2012 or 2013, and that is the big thing that's important to take away from, is that they actually have a team to work on it now. So I think it's just a happy accident that team finally got up to speed, while the server meshing just has been kind of stumbling, but PES and server meshing have been kind of stumbling and crawling their way towards the finish lines. I think it just so happened that they had it, and so CIG is kind of pushing it a little bit further, like, yes, let's use that. We can actually get stuff out now. So, yeah, I don't think it's intentional, but I wouldn't be surprised if, this way, I wouldn't be surprised if it is, but I don't think it was intentional. I think it just more of a happened to be that way, and CIG's not going to not lean into it. So, all right. Botox Gaming asks, what, if anything, are you looking forward to for the rest of this year? Start with you, Vertigo.
Oh, shoot. Well, I know 4.0 is not coming this year, so like server meshing is like the one thing I really want. I mean, I'd love to see like another player count bump, more persistent universe sandbox gameplay, like Pioneer, stuff building, be able to build stuff for the Pioneer, but we're not getting any of that. So obviously, like more stuff for mining, more stuff for salvage, more gold passes on ships so they can actually salvage those ships successfully besides just hull scraping. I would love to see some like a YouTube video update on Squadron 42. Like just like, here's where we're at. That's probably gonna be CitizenCon. Probably Chris Roberts gonna sit down and have another hour-long chat. The hour-long fireside chat. Like, here's we're throwing out the AI again. It didn't work. It's not scalable enough, folks.
I think
We have to start over.
I think CitizenCon is going to be where that video comes out, because I feel like they haven't touched on Squadron 42 the past, like, I think throughout most of the digital CitizenCons, they haven't touched Squadron 42 almost at all. So I think this year, I'm hoping we do actually have like an update, a video update with videos and actual visuals to see where Squadron 42 is at. I am
very, very still. I am not supposed to be this still. I don't know why my camera froze.
Yeah, you are a ventriloquist professional. Wow.
I know, right? Paul is he's doing some mime work on the side.
So amazing. How are you doing that? That's so cool, man.
I mean, you want to do a statue of Paul in Minecraft when he's already statuing in Mimecraft.
In Minecraft.
There you go. Jokes.
I will say we did get an update on Squadron 42 that was visual, but it was interspaced between 2 hours of talking on and I know people are like, I want unfiltered Chris Roberts. It's like, I don't want 2 hours of just nonsense. And it wasn't bad. It was 2 hours of nonsense after 3 hours of videos. It's like, you know, this is a very old meme. You'll see it on like very old television shows. Because I don't know how frequent it was. Some of the YouTube chat can tell me that like people showing off their vacation slides, and you're just sitting there dying because they're showing off all of their slides of the pictures they took, over and over again. It's just like, oh God. It was like that. It wouldn't have been bad if that was a 2-hour section with Chris Roberts and Richard Tyre, I want to say, the head of Squadron 42's development. If they was just them sitting with Jared talking for 2 hours on its own, like away from CitizenCon, like for a December release, I think more people would have been okay with it. It's still just them talking and just spaced between small clips, but it would be a little bit better. But I agree.
It was them trying to make up for lack of Chris Roberts doing town hall meetings. All at once at CitizenCon last year.
Yeah.
It's just all the town hall meetings Chris Roberts was supposed to host. Just nope, right here.
Like, we already sat through like 3 hours. That 2 hours added onto that, where it was like, this is the opposite of the Tony Z videos, where it started really boring and then was mind blowing. This one was mind blowing and then got really boring, and then I wanted to fall asleep.
So, but I agree. I think so. Tinfoil hat, because this is something that I think will happen, but I can't guarantee. My Magic 8 Ball says all signs are pointing towards CIG announcing another release date for Squadron. If not that, some sort of big update, some sort of a new discussion for Squadron, or new reveal for Squadron.
I could see a release window being announced, but not a release date. Yeah,
I wouldn't say like a day. Date is a little too specific, but like winter of 2024 or winter of 2025 or whatever. Answer the call. They'll do it again. But
2025, they'll pick the year at least.
Yes. I don't think you'll I don't think you'll see. I think they're going to be ambitious because this is CIG, and I don't think they'll make it. But I think they'll announce it for 2024 of the winter of 2024, and then it'll get delayed in like July of next year, because this is not a CIG thing. All games do this. This happens for there's not been a AAA game in the last 3 years that I can remember that hasn't been delayed at least by like a month since its original release date. So, or like another vertical slice or something like that. But what I'm looking forward to most in terms of realistic, non-cope and hope is what they're going to do with the whole C. Because the whole C is coming out in 320. So it's like, is this just going to be, they just dump it in because they can get it in there and it's completely useless? Because if anyone has tried to do any trading in Star Citizen, I can tell you right now, the whole C was useless. It will be useless if they don't change the economy.
It
And
needs
you
the
have to
big
be able to load cargo
box.
from space stations.
Yeah.
With the whole sea. Like, unless they want to make this weird half fold up mode where you can land with it extended.
What can you buy at space stations? You can buy salvage or scrap. That's it.
Scrap and waste, I believe.
Yeah. So you need to actually have a economy to be able to support
And the space stations are supposed to be the cargo hubs for the worlds they're orbiting. They're not like you're not like that should be where the actual like TDDs should be because that's where the massive cargo ships are going to be. So are we going to see that kind of economic change come with 320?
And also,
are we
like,
going to see the
we're going to have like 32 SU containers added to Star Citizen because the whole sea has a SU capacity of what? 1,000?
1,000 plus. It's like I'll look it up real quick.
Is it in the thousands?
It might be
have you tried loading a whole not a whole sea? Have you tried loading up a Hercules C2? I dare anybody to try it.
Okay,
don't try it.
Here's
I
the
tried loading
full,
my Carrack. It's not fun.
Here's the full card because the whole Hercules C2 is like 600 SCU, right? 500, 600 SCU.
669, I believe, or 96. 696.
The whole C is 4,608.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Thousands, yeah.
We're talking like 5 or 6 times that of the most cargo we have in game right now.
I guarantee you, if you try to load up a Herc or a Caterpillar, like with the 1 SU boxes with just a couple of friends and a couple tractor beams, you'll be done after about 100 boxes. Like it's tedious and it's awful. 4,000, like that's like a Twitch stream. Someone just crazy decided to stream that shit.
That's a 24-hour Twitch stream marathon to load up a whole sea.
I remember when
that's equivalent to the Desert Bus gameplay. Like you're just doing that sort of thing. So monotonous.
Yeah, I have a better example of that. Remember WTFosaurus?
Yeah. When he flew to one of the
back
stations?
in 2.0, he flew from Port Olisar to one of the Calmares and back on stand. He didn't use the quantum drive. He just flew there with like a Herald.
Yeah. I've done that.
And that was like most of his stream. He was just chatting the entire time.
I've done that between the 2 moons of Microtech, the 2 close ones. That's still a 4-hour trip.
Yeah.
That's the time. It's basically watching paint dry. Like, you better load up a podcast and start slinging those boxes. And I'm pretty sure some of the, if you're like, even in space, it's going to be kind of a pain in the ass because you have to load around the entire whole
thing.
So So you're going to want to shift the ship, like get into the captain's seat and roll it a little bit to make it closer to your loading point. So the technology has to get better before the whole seat comes in, or else it's going to be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Bill asks, how did he not crash? And the simple answer is because it was 2.0, not 3.0.
Yes.
I think he crashed a couple times on his way over, but he managed to do it one day.
Yes. It was hours. It was like a 9-hour trip, and he managed to do it once. But what was I going to say? Yes, the like all of those things, like the fact that the simple fact that they put the whole sea as a release in the release view sets off a whole bunch of like what kind of alarms, because it's not just a ship. It's a ship that is like the representation of the economy that CIG wants to create. It's got insane amounts of cargo. It can only be done in space. So there's that alone needs like 5 or 6 different features to be added to support that ship effectively. So I'm looking forward to that only because it's either going to be they're just going to dump it because it's done, which I don't think CIG will do. It's not out of the realm of possibility. The raft exists. That's exactly what they did with the raft. They dumped it because it was done. But it's still, I don't think CIG would do it intentionally, that kind of thing. I think it's just that it's available and they can confirm that it's done, and they just can't confirm if all the other stuff is done yet. So,
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I think they're I think if the work on the cargo hangars gets delayed, which I know they're working on, they just haven't announced that's on 320. So we don't know if we're getting it or not. I think that's going to be the one where when they're ready to go release, it's going to be a go or no go. And then that could be the make it or break it on if we get like cargo hangars and we actually in the other freight. You know, I think that could get pushed back, but who knows? It's like things are so empty on the 320 roadmap that it's just like we don't know what's going on there. It's pretty quiet.
And no, chat. See, the whole sea can't even land with cargo. So, like, there's a lot of factors in that.
Yeah,
All right,
because like the Hull A can land with cargo because it has it goes out the sides and up the top. It's just the sides of it, but like the Hull C comes out the bottom, so you have cargo grid coming out the bottom massively. So you can't land because the landing legs aren't going to touch the ground.
All right. Next question comes from Unknown Guardian, who asks: Santuk Yai at Alien Week or 320? It's just it just left or getting. It isn't even in Lot 0. It's just ending its gray box phase as of last month. So and Alien Week is Friday,
the 19th. Yeah. So it'll be there for, you could purchase the concept for Alien Week, but it's not going to be flight ready for Alien.
Yeah, it won't be Friday. It's
maybe CitizenCon 320.
Yeah, I can see 320.
Yeah. But we'd see IAE, signs that would be moving through. We'd probably see stuff on Inside Star Citizen.
I don't think there'll be any surprise. You can drive this or fly this now. I think it'll be surprise. It'll be ready in 320. I think right now just kind of in between. So I think everything now is going to be for 320.
If you want more information, check out the roadmap because the latest roadmap specifically talks about it. So, but yeah, and it'll crush your dreams because it's not even finished the gray box phase. It still needs to go through Lot 0 and final art. So there's a long time for that to go. Midnight Black SC asks, do you think we'll ever see server meshing, or do you think we'll see server meshing in Evocati this year? Vertigo.
No,
you're the most.
I don't. I think server meshing is going to be next year, maybe around CitizenCon next year. We may hear something about it, but I don't think it's next year would be like a pipe dream. Like it's not coming this year.
I am optimistic. I may be overdosing on hopium, but I think we will see it in Evocati at the last week of last month of this year, just like they did with 318. I don't think it's going to come out into PTU. Then I think it's just going to be in Evocati, and then they'll take their time for actually get out.
At the beginning of the year, they did have that big, massive in-person meet and greet to get all the devs on the same page for server meshing, and they haven't gone off track. And everything is planned to get server meshing, at least in Evocati PTU testing by the end of the year. I think it will be just kind of a repetition of 318, where it's going to come out end of the year in Evocati, PTU, whatever. It's just going to get thrown out to start testing with multiple people, and it's going to be a mess, and it's going to be 318.2 all over again. I think it'll come at the end of this year, but I don't expect it to be enjoyable or playable too much.
I think it'll come out, but I wouldn't expect it to come out to the average backer until April at the earliest.
I was gonna say May. Like I wouldn't expect server meshing until May.
Yeah, it's not as complicated as PES, but with PES issues still being had, and several other issues with PES, like decoupling the it's the thing I always forget. It's the thing that connects all of the servers to like the back end. Right now, it's only connected to the individual
replication layer.
Replication layer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I always forget it. Chat knows I always forget it. That's the one word thing I always forget. The replication layer. They have yet to decouple the replication layer from the shards and make it to global replication layer. Until they get that, they can't get server meshing in. That's the issue, not necessarily the server meshing.
Because currently we have one server per shard. And for server meshing to work, they need to have one shard for at least two servers. And have two servers in a single shard. Yeah. We'll see how that goes.
So you need to be able to decouple that, and they haven't even talked about that, at least in the monthly reports. It's not something they've been overly talking about. And if they did, there would be a letter from the chairman. When that happens, I can almost guarantee you that Chris will write a letter from the chairman for it. But they haven't done it yet. So if it's not done yet, then we have to wait till that happens, and that is required before you can even get to the server meshing. So it's not necessarily that the server meshing is the issue. It's that server meshing, we see it as kind of like a mono, like, oh, server meshing. It's like, no, it's like dozens, hundreds of different little things that have to be done.
It's like a series of tubes that you jump things into.
Like right now, to get server meshing working, they're just kind of connecting like 3 tubes together. To get dynamic server meshing, they got to connect thousands of tubes together. And it's just like, it's exponential, the connections and communications they're going to have to do across servers. I don't want to be them, but I kind of would like to. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of interconnected tools and other things that have to come back in together that have to authenticate, and there's a whole back end process. And someone's like, "Is this from Total? Isn't that just a database?" It is, but it's not just the database. It's how the database communicates with the DGS, and the DGS communicates with the database. It's the process of how they all talk to each other and who can say what and how. That's the process. That's the complicated part. Because if you screw up the wrong who can talk to what, you can leave security vulnerabilities. You can have massive lag time. There's lots of things. So
it's a big communication and like infrastructure problem that they have to solve. I mean, no other game has done kind of multiplayer gameplay the way they're doing with the replication layer, because the replication layer is the database, and then you got the game servers and shards connecting to the replication layer and pulling data from that replication layer to give to the games, to give to the shards, to give to the game servers,
to give to the clients, you know.
And then it's a back and forth communication of, okay, this shard needs to write to the replication layer, or this this player put down this thing on this replication layer, or on this shard. This shard now needs to send that data to the replication layer so that when this server crashes, or this whole shard crashes or goes down, then a new shard can be spun up or whatever, and then pull from the replication layer. And it's just so much back and forth between layers that it's just insane. It's just the way they're doing it it's not what a contemporary, it's not what you would see in a normal database whatsoever for a game server whatsoever.
Yeah, it's every game is going to have a unique one, but Star Citizen's on its own because of what CIG wants to do, which is insane, which is like thousands of people per server. It requires a ton of other tools, which takes more time. And like I said, I think even CIG has said to the point where like the actual server meshing, the part of actually meshing servers together, that's not hard. They've done that. I think like EverQuest.
That technology's been done before in other games.
Yeah,
server meshing. But never been done to the degree Chris Roberts wants to do it with persistence. Yeah. Persistence is insanity. Why would you save the state of every item on the server?
Yeah.
That's insanity, Chris. Stop it.
No one cares about your coffee cup in the woods, Chris.
Yeah, same with like the scale of Star Citizen. Like planets, like MMOs never, like, you could fit the entirety of like World of Warcraft on like one of them, the moons.
Just pick a moon, any moon. You could fit World of Warcraft on a moon, any moon. Pick a moon.
Hey, thank you so much for that, Raid Hunter Wild. Welcome everybody. We're kind of wrapping up the question and answer session, but feel free to sit down and listen to us. So, but yeah, so like there's the point being, like the issue isn't necessarily the server meshing; it's all of the other things to get to the server meshing, which still hasn't been done yet. So that's why I am not surprised that Vertigo's like no. Because it's like we just haven't seen all of the other stuff that needs to get to that point. And that's why I say it's probably optimistic to think that we'll get it by the end of the year. But I'm going to be an optimist when it comes to that. So, all right. QPan asks, do you think CIG should add the PTV racing tracks to Arena Commander as well as ship tracks from the PU? Yes. I want PTV buggy races in the Arena Commander. That would be so much more fun.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, do it. We already got the buggy track in Microtech. Like, put it in. Give us a race mode. Like,
put it into the race mode. We should have a race mode for like every vehicle in Star Citizen.
Yeah,
I would say even foot races.
Yes, give a foot race. Give a marathon. I'm down. Any kind of like racing, I'm down for. I'd also love it if
because we're gonna have parkour. We saw that in like the CitizenCon presentation last year, where you had like vaulting and.
Ooh, dude, that would be such a good race mode, what is it? Like a parkour racing.
What was that? What was that? Was it a Bethesda game? I think it was a Bethesda game. No, it was
Mirror's
a dice
Edge?
Game. Mirror's Edge.
Are you thinking Mirror's Edge? Yeah.
Mirror's Edge, yeah.
Where, like,
that wasn't a Bethesda game. That was
Dice. It was
EA.
Dice.
That was
Dice EA.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, because they made that before Battlefield 3, and they used the FPS camera that they used in Mirror's Edge to go into Battlefield 3. Mm-hmm. Not that I know or anything.
Next question comes from Board Ken, who asks, do you think we'll end up actually seeing aliens in the PU? Yes.
Eventually.
Yeah.
I mean,
When?
if
Who
Star
knows?
Citizen's timeline is long enough,
Infinite,
and they keep
yeah.
infinite timeline and infinite money, yeah,
Money.
we'll see whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we still haven't seen a Van Duel in person yet. We still haven't seen, like, we haven't seen any, like, we've seen the Van Duel in cinematics, but we haven't seen any other alien species in engine, like, or in gameplay running. The only time we've seen any alien species is in the Mercury Star Runner like video they did, where you, at the end, you see a Banu in a cryopod.
Yeah.
We saw. I remember them showing off Van Duel in like Star Citizen. It was like around the verse, or it was like, I think it was after they rebranded to Inside Star Citizen, but they showed off briefly Van Duel moving around a small hangar using their staff weapons. But it was a very short clip.
Yeah.
Mm.
Most of that
Hell
stuff
if I
is,
could find it for you though.
most of that stuff is set aside for Squadron, so it's a matter of like we will almost certainly won't see the Van Duel until Squadron comes out.
Yeah, but even in like the Squadron cinematics they've shown, there's been no like communications or interactions between characters who are Xi'an, you know, which you would think would be, which would be Tavaran, Xi'an. Tavaran, you would really think
We haven't seen, besides the Van Duel, I don't think we've seen any other alien race in engine, in like an advertisement or something like that.
No. Yeah.
In a video. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is been this thing where CIG has a creature team of some kind. I don't know exactly the team involved, but there's a team at CIG who they interviewed them like once or twice. One of the people who worked on Mass Effect, the creatures from Mass Effect, is one of the artists who worked on that, is now working for CIG, or was working for CIG a couple of years ago. And since then, there's been a lot of discussions in the monthly reports of like alien creatures. We've seen Boids, which was talked about at one point, the birds and fish kind of, like
background AI.
But they've been mentioning, even the last monthly report, they mentioned multiple fauna being updated and added. So there's something going on in there. I think it's just a matter of CIG probably not going to release any of this, like aliens or anything like that, until they can get AI working properly. Because there's no point in adding a Van Duel if they're just a statue. If they just stand on chairs, like it's...
Well, I mean, why not? They added a statue for a dead kid. Why not a statue of a Van Duel?
Well, that's because it's
Person
a
Dynamics got
Rip
tons of
Anthony
statues.
Tanaka.
He real one. The face of a revolution, man. He's the face of a revolution in the lore. It makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, we've got a couple questions left. Favorite MISC ship? Mine's the MISC. So...
Favorite MISC ship?
Fury. Technically, Mirai,
it's
a spin-off. It's still MISC.
It's owned
the
by
Apollo
MISC.
Corporation.
I
would say the Fury
MISC.
as well. Like the freelancers, the base freelancer is pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
If it didn't look like a alien sex toy.
It is. It's a flying penis. We all know that it is.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from High Prince of Dragoon. High Prince of Dragon or Dragoon? It's Dragon. That's Dragon. High Prince of Dragon. Do you think we will see a hover bike from MISC or Mirai? Possibly.
I would like to see one.
Yeah.
I'd like to see one. Yeah.
I think Mirai may have a hover bike.
Almost certainly.
Like it's right up their alley, like or some sort of racing vehicle, and
If-
they've got the
unless it was
Jean Tech, the hover tech, so it makes sense.
Unless it was very utilitarian,
Like a hover-
a more utilitarian version of the Dragonfly to like actually
like a Dragonfly with like a small flat.
No, it's gonna be like
for
the
like
Nox.
a 1SE or
It's gonna be like the Nox with like a really kind of thin, kind of razory kind of looking Nox. I would think if it was gonna be Mirai.
Yeah, I think if they wanted to go like a racing bike, it could look like that. But if they just went more utilitarian, like a military, like support, like scout, then I think it could go under the MISC and look more utilitarian. I don't know. It's interesting. It depends on how they'd want to choose to go about it.
I always want to say the Nox is like a MISC vehicle, but it's not. It's a completely separate manufacturer, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
it's
AOPOA. But
AOPOA.
But AOPOA and MISC have a trade agreement with one another. So like Jean Tech ends up in MISC stuff.
I actually like that CIG created a new manufacturer to actually give MISC an alien vibe to them instead of like just the boring ass refrigerators, stainless steel refrigerators they keep making.
Stainless steel refrigerators. Yeah.
It's about time that MISC actually has like cool transforming shit that's not the Reliant.
Yeah.
I do like the Fury. I do. I don't like it enough to actually get my YouTube video done on it on time, but I do like it. I have opinions on the ship. I need to get that YouTube video fixed up and work out. But
all right, we only have 6 questions left. Northern Trooper asks, will we see engineering gameplay in Arena Commander before the PU or vice versa? I would think that that's the perfect use case for experimental modes. If it's done before a patch and they want to test it out, put it in a PU. Or put it in Arena Commander.
Put it in Arena Commander. Because they with 320 is coming multi-crew Arena Commander.
Yes.
Which, by the way, was promised a long time ago back in 2015.
Oh, yeah.
I have the slide. Paul knows the slide if I showed it to him.
I know the slide. I tend to not like those slides because it's like when someone says something really stupid when they're a teenager and you remember it and you just constantly bring it up again.
Hold on to it. I know.
And hold on to it, even if they're like completely changed and like CIG is not the same company it was in 2015. So it's like they've gotten better, maybe not as good as they should be, but they've gotten better. So I don't like that as much. But I think engineering. I think it's more likely, but I don't want to say it's 100%. But it would be a limited test, because that's the one problem that a lot of people have been having is like, how are you going to do engineering? Because you're going to have to refit all of the ships for engineering.
They can always just refit them one at a time and just have like a constellation that has all the engineering stuff in it. It looks like almost looks like the Hammerhead's going to have all the engineering stuff first though, because they kept showing up like Hammerhead stuff every time the engineering stuff comes up. It's like, oh, here's the Hammerhead with like relays in it. Oh, you can actually pull the relays out of the walls. Look at that. Here's the Hammerhead with like subcomponents in it and stuff.
Yeah, I think they might address what ships have been recently had a gold path because those already have components in it. So I think those will probably be easier for them to switch over to the relay system and the power management system. But I could see it where like we'll slowly see them come in when they do a gold pass, and I wouldn't expect a mass, blanket. They all have it now when it first comes out.
Yeah, but that would be a perfect use case for Arena Commander because you've got a couple of ships that work on it. Maybe you don't want to put it in the PU yet, but hey, they've got an experimental mode where it's just constellations and hammerheads, and you in multi-crew resource mode to test it out to see if it works. That's a great way of doing it if it's not fully ready yet. You want to test out engineering gameplay? Here you go. Here's this mode for you. Get the feedback. But I don't know. I could also see CIG just saying, it's done on these ships, ship it. Just put it out. Just put it out there. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work for everything. Just it works now. So, because they've done that with salvage, right? With the components and such. So, what do you think, Nick? Do you think it would be coming in the Arena Commander or PU first?
Both.
Think both at the same time?
I think it would be both at the same time, not Arena Commander first.
Okay.
I think if they're going to implement a new system like that, it'll be in both so that they can get data for how it functions in the PU and the persistent universe, and then how it functions and get focus testing in the Arena Commander. I think that would be a good way to do it.
All right. John Don asks, once Pyro is released, do you think CIG could release at least one new system a year, or am I high on hopium? No, I think you could. What do you think, Vertigo?
I mean, if the systems were empty and there really wasn't any other content like space bases, star bases, and whatnot, they could probably do a system a year easy, if not more. Depends on how handcrafted CIG wants that star system.
Not too many systems are as handcrafted as the Crusader system.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
as unique as the Pyro system.
Yeah, those two are very unique edge cases, and there is quite a few systems who are pretty small and empty. And additionally, we have the systems that are going to be available from Squadron 42. Those are already being worked on. So whatever systems are in Squadron 42 will be ready to come to the PU when it's ready to. So
yeah, like the Odin system we know is in Squadron 42. They had that in the vertical slice.
The Vegas system.
So we know the coil's going to be there. We know the technology behind the coil, which is essentially a gas cloud technology with more bells and whistles. So they'll be able to have that maneuver navigational hazard.
Yeah. The issue with developing planets. I mean, think about like for Arena Commander, Green, the planet that they're using, that they developed that in like a month. So like there's nothing on there except for the planet. You know, the Good Doctor, for instance, is an actual planet. The FPS map is just an actual planet. They just generated a planet and then stuck the map on it. And they're getting tools all the time to improve upon it. The issue with making new systems isn't making new systems, it's server meshing. There's no point in really building out new systems until you have an idea of how the server meshing is going to function. They've still been working on it, though. Nyx has been worked on. It's been generated with its planets for a while. I've seen lore bits coming out, which means that they're really kind of trying to evolve the factions and the other parts of Nyx. So it is entirely possible for them to do one planet or one system a year. It's just a matter of how bad 4.0 launches and how long it takes for them to get to a stable. Is 4.0 a 318? No, I don't think you're going to see, Nyx come out in a year from, maybe in a year from 318. But if it's not as bad, maybe. It really depends on how stable they can keep the servers and how everything kind of functions. Content is not a problem. CIG can make a lot of stuff and has made a lot of stuff very quickly. It's a matter of, does the system support it? So, do you mean as bad as 318? What did I say? To say as good as B318? I don't know. I meant as bad as 318. All right.
Yeah. Sarcastic good as.
Yeah. Alcinor asks, will we get artillery like the M109 Paladin self-propelled 115 millimeter gun? I don't know, but I want it. What do you think, Nick? Do you think we're going to get artillery in game?
I'm getting some audio issues on my end. It's everything sounding robotic, so I'm trying to fix it right now.
Okay. I mean, for me, artillery is good. It's great. I love artillery in games. Battlefield, when you had that limited ability in Battlefield to use artillery or in like Arma, it's fantastic. Vertigo, what do you think?
Artillery is a trickier thing. It's not very fun to play against because you have you don't have line of sight and you can just call down firepower on top of people without them being able to see it or really react to it, and they just blow up for no reason. It's very frustrating, and not many people like it. So I know Chris Roberts wants to do it. He wants to have forward observers be able to call in strikes, laser designate targets for like retaliators and whatnot. So it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Am I excited for it? Not really.
People are saying it's like the A2. It's like, yeah, that's a good example. If you have some way of countering it, it'll be better. Like bases having shield generators or something like that too.
Yeah. A lot of people have been asking for shield generators for bases for a long time now. Just to kind of counter stuff like the A2.
But I'm a big fan of being prepared wins battles, and being prepared. The person who's more prepared gets better results. So like having like mortars, for instance, would be a great idea, I think. But I think it'd be fun. And people are talking about like iron domes. You could have automated systems that could shoot down the bombs and the rockets and stuff. So. Hopefully Nick will be able to get back in. I think he's restarted his computer. Irritated Considerably asks, how long does the table think the static server meshing will take to deliver in order to improve server/shard performance, including for AC?
All right, I'm back. I fixed my issues.
You get? Okay. You might need to get that link again, but I'll let you go, Vertigo. How long do you think that static server meshing will take to deliver in order to improve performance for the game? And I'll be right back.
Like once we get server meshing, how long do you think it's going to be before it's good? Maybe 9 months. Like it's definitely gonna be at least half a year to 3/4 of a year before server meshing they iron out server meshing, because CIG usually doesn't release stuff like in a good state. Stereotypically, isn't that right, Nick?
No, they don't. They things are usually released in a bad broken state. They do some .1 to fix it, then they'll address it in the next quarter update. But it's usually not until a few quarters until a new tech is kind of ironed out. So yeah, I would say not until like 2 or 3. Like I feel like 320, 318 is finally going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
But I
You think 318? Hold on. You think server meshing is going to be even static server meshing? You think static server meshing is going to be very disruptive on like the minute-to-minute gameplay, like persistent any streaming like 318 was when the 4.0 comes out?
I don't think it'll be that disruptive. I think there'll just be some edge cases or some issues that will just take a very long time to solve.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it'll be as disruptive as like 318 was.
I don't think it will be either.
Gameplay experience. I just think issues will linger.
I asked
for a while.
Nick, Paul, if 4.0 when static server meshing comes in, do you think static server meshing is going to be disruptive as 318 was with persistent any streaming?
No, it's not. There's not as many things that can go wrong. I do think it's going to be. It will be disruptive, but in different ways. Like instead of you not literally being able to play, you'll just have. Or like, hey, it's like 30Ks all over the place. You may still have 30Ks, and who knows? Maybe by then they'll actually be able to save your status with the replication layer being decoupled, so they can actually like bring you back if you got 30K in the middle of like travel or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be like every time you cross a server boundary, you 30K. You know, like or stuff like that, or you'll ghost into another place and not actually be there, and desync will get even worse. Mm-hmm. Like there'll be some gameplay issues which will be worse than 318 and better than other cases. Or
you'll get into past server boundaries and swap servers, and then you'll just be an invisible player. Oh wait, we've had that since Socks came in, and it's still not fixed.
And it's going to get worse with server meshing. Like
it's just going to get worse.
Yeah. But I also think it's important to remember that server meshing is not a goal. It's not a good thing. Like server meshing is not a silver bullet. It's a problem. It's an issue that CIG has to solve. Not a tool that's going to improve gameplay. The only thing that's going to improve performance, gameplay is code improvements. Going in and fixing, undoing spaghetti code and like optimizing the gameplay or optimizing the stuff. That's not going to come in. We got really lucky with object container streaming when it first came in because it gave this huge performance boost. But pretty much everything since then that's been added has either been like Socks, for instance, has been mostly neutral to like slightly worse in some cases. Mm-hmm. 318 with PES, much worse. So I don't think it's important to kind of not think of static server meshing as like it's a goal, but it's more like a challenge to overcome than it is something that's going to improve gameplay. It's going to take a while. So,
yeah. It's an obstacle in the road. It's not a
yes.
It's not.
it's a challenge to be conquered, not a goal to attain, kind of thing. Not nothing to look forward to. It's like looking forward to a doctor's appointment. You got to do it because you got to go there and make sure everything's healthy. You don't necessarily love to do it and take your time off to do it, but
it's like finding a giant spider on the way to take a ring to Mordor.
Yes, mm-hmm. Exactly. It's something you got to do in order for you to complete the task, not something you look forward to doing. All right, last two questions. Or doesn't it share server load, which in turn improves performance, which will allow them to add more stuff to the servers, which will then bog down and create more problems. The second CIG can add more NPCs to the servers, they're throwing NPCs in servers. The second they can add more players per server, they're throwing more players in the servers.
I think the goal for server meshing is to give subscription AI their own dedicated server and have them off a separate server from players.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the goals to achieve with server meshing.
You mean
when
quantum
that happens,
AI?
if that happens, no, subsumption.
Because subsumption is the ones we deal with right now.
Yeah, so subsumptions are the ones we deal with right now on the game servers, right? But I think a goal for the server is to separate those out and have a separate game server for the subsumption AI to be ran, and then like kind of like server mesh and communicate to the game server.
Okay.
so that the subsumption calculations will be taking part as if they were a client connected to the game server.
So like it's communicating to the back end
It's
separately
communicating, so it's
directly
communicating
to
to the game server as if they were a player controlling an AI. I think that's the goal for subsumption, so that the game server can, have much more players, and then those AI calculations are offloaded onto another server elsewhere. I believe that's a goal. I could be wrong, but I believe that was a goal that was stated at some point.
Yeah, I see I get what you're saying. But yeah. All right, let's move on to the last two questions. Gin and Tonic asks, have you seen the Starfarer Fury carrier vids? I haven't. Have y'all?
I've seen it done by Starjump. Like someone made a carrier for. They took the fuel cans off the back of a Starfarer, and they added special docks for the Furies.
Okay.
And they were able to add like a special crane system, so you could bring a Fury inside the cargo bay of the Starfarer and have like a cool little repair bay in there. It was pretty interesting to see.
Do you think the probability of CIG making that an official rather than an emergent gameplay? Maybe. I think anything's possible. I mean, CIG has taken emergent ideas before and put them in there. Jumptown alone is an example. Like the event system was partially inspired by Jumptown. So,
they literally had an event they brought over because the community was doing stuff at Jumptown. They're like, hey, let's create people like that. Let's do it again.
They're talking about an in-game, like actually turning a Starfarer into a Fury carrier.
Oh, Fury carrier.
I don't know.
You can do it now with the Starfarer.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, it kind of works.
You can do it. It's janky, but you can do it.
Are you talking about? Oh, they're talking about like putting it on the walkways. Is that what it is? So you can like get
no, like the fuel tanks and hanging it upside down on the on it.
So you can actually attach it to the fuel tanks.
Yeah, you can take apart the fuel tanks and like kind of dock backwards into it, and it'll kind of get into its physics grid and stay there, kind of the same way it kind of stays on top of the hangar doors of the Carrack. It'll kind of get into its physics grid, and it'll stay there if you remove the fuel tanks. So you can carry Furies just hanging from where the fuel tanks are on the Starfarer. So
maybe I could see something like that. I don't see it being something that CIG will do out of the place, but I don't think it's out of the question. What do y'all think? Yes, no.
I mean, it would be nice if CIG had like that, but like everybody wants a pocket carrier.
Yeah,
everybody.
Everything is a pocket carrier with the Fury. I love it.
Yeah, everything's a pocket carrier if you're brave enough.
It's like 20 Furies can fit inside a Carrack. It's like nuts. Yeah. How many of you can put in that thing?
You can fit so many in it, around it, on it. It's so good. But I think a stable is 18. 20 is when you're cramping that hangar.
All right. Sergeant Halfsack asks the last question, who says, this is my last question. Pepsi or Coke? Nick?
Coke.
Vertigo?
Coke.
I'm going to be different. Pepsi. I don't mind Coke. But if you sat me down and said, which one? I'll be like, Pepsi. I tend to prefer that.
I'm definitely not someone who goes to a restaurant and be like, oh, we only got Pepsi. I'm not gonna be like, oh no, I don't want Pepsi.
Yeah.
I'll be like, fine, whatever. I don't care. A cola's a cola. Like
the real answer is Dr. Pepper, though. I'm in Texas. I have to say Dr. Pepper. Because
I love Dr. Pepper.
Well, Dr. Pepper's so good. Like you can never go wrong.
Water's fine. Yeah. But like it's practically a religion in Texas that you have to like Dr. Pepper.
I'm drinking iced coffee right now. If anyone cares,
people keep saying drink more water, but I haven't drank water in like 5 years, and I feel fine.
It's got electrolytes. That's what's good for him. It's what plants crave. Rondo.
Thank you so much for this epic 2 hour plus. Let me double check the